Good evening. At this time, I'd like to invite Pastor Rodney Kyles to do our invocation.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having me do this invocation. Let's go ahead and bow our heads, close our eyes. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you in the name of Jesus. Father, we want to come to you humbly today. First, giving you thanks, Lord, for all that you have done in our lives. You are our God and our source, and we look to you for sustaining our very lives. Lord, we desire to walk in your perfect will, and so therefore, Lord, we are asking your guidance. We ask for your wisdom, your support as we, the community, the city of Corona's leadership, we gather here for this session. Father, may this meeting not just be another routine meeting, but a meeting where your presence is acknowledged and revered. Father, we ask that you aid us as we engage in meaningful discussion and conversation, allowing us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of community. Father, as we make decisions to better our community, let us not forget that it's the people which are what matters most. Lord, you not only love us, but you are the very essence of love. Lord, I specifically lift up this city's mayor, Tony Daddario, and thank you for his influence and his convictions for always doing and desiring to do what's right. Thank you, Father, for this council's ideas, visions, and concepts that keep the city of Corona not only safe, but thriving. Lord, give our city manager, police chief, fire chief, the wisdom and strength to carry out your will and their responsibilities. Thank you, Father, for keeping us safe day by day as we live here in this beautiful city of Corona. We love you, thank you, and praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, sir. At this time, since you're all standing, if you'll please join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. At this time, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Individuals wishing to address the City Council are requested to complete a speaker card and deliver it to the City Clerk, staff prior to the item being heard by the City Council. Please observe a 3-minute time limit for communications, and once called upon to speak, please state your name and city of residence for the record. One revision to the agenda, there's been a presentation added to item 4. And now we're going to go on to our proclamations, recognitions, and presentations. And at this time, in honor of the proclamation for Poppy Month, I would like to invite the Joe Dominguez American Legion Women Auxiliary Post 742 to receive the proclamation. How are you? I'm going to read this and then I'll give you guys the mic. What's that? I'm going to read this and I'll give you guys the mic. Okay, so May is Poppy Month, and whereas America is the land of freedom, preserved and protected willingly and freely by citizen soldiers, and whereas millions who have answered the call to arms have died on the field of battle, and whereas a nation at peace must be reminded of the price of war and the debt owed to those who have died in war, and whereas the red poppy has been designated as a symbol of sacrifice of lives in all wars, and whereas the Joe Dominguez American Legion Women's Auxiliary Post 742 has pledged to remind America annually of this debt through the distribution of the memorial flower. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Tony Daddario, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Poppy Month in the city of Corona, and ask that all citizens pay tribute to those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the name of freedom wearing the memorial poppy this month.
Thank you very much. After World War I, the poppy flourished in Europe. Scientists attributed the growth to soils in France and Belgium becoming enriched with lime and the rubble left by the war. From the dirt and the mud grew a beautiful red poppy. The red poppy came to symbolize the bloodshed during the battle following the publication of the wartime poem In Flanders Field. The poem was written by Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, MD, while serving on the front lines. On September 27, 1920, the poppy became the official flower of the American Legion family to memorialize the soldiers who fought and died during the war. In 1924, the distribution of poppies became a national program of the American Legion. Over the decades, disabled and/or hospitalized veterans help assemble crepe paper poppies for distribution in return for donations. These veterans are able to earn a small wage, which helps to supplement their income and makes them feel more self-sufficient. This physical and mental activity provides them many therapeutic benefits as well. Tens of millions of dollars in donations have been raised exclusively to assist and support veterans and their families. This tradition continues today. I would like each of you to have our auxiliary brochure and poppies. Some of the members of the auxiliary will be handing them out. In 2017, the American Legion family called on U.S. Congress to designate the Friday before Memorial Day as National Poppy Day. And in 2018, the name National Poppy Day was successfully trademarked for American Legion auxiliary members to use publicly. This year, National Poppy Day is Friday, May 26th. Please wear your poppy proudly on that day in honor of the fallen and in support of the living who have worn our nation's uniform. Thank you. And thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You want to take a picture really quick?
Absolutely.
Thank you, ladies. We're certainly honored that you're here for this proclamation. Moving on to our next proclamation, which is this week is Small Business Week. And I would like to invite the Corona Print Shop to receive the proclamation. Okay, so National Small Business Week, April 30th to May 6th. Whereas the U.S. Small Business Administration has designated the week of April 30th through May 6th, 2023 as Small Business Week, and whereas there are 33.2 million small businesses across the U.S. and 4.24 million in California. And whereas small businesses across the U.S. employ 61.7 million individuals and 7.4 million in California. And whereas small business in Corona comprise 91.4% of the city's total business community, contributing to more than 72,500 jobs in a variety of industries. And whereas the city and partner agencies support small businesses with access to entrepreneurship, financial resources, hiring, and training resources. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Tony D'Addario, on behalf of the Corona City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of April 30th through May 6, 2023 as Small Business Week, and urge our residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants during Small Business Week and throughout the year. So we for any of you that are following our city socials, we highlighted the Corona Print Shop, and we did a little video about you guys. So why don't you take 2 minutes and introduce yourself?
I'm Lisanne Yogis, and we are a family-owned business in Corona. We do screen printing, embroidery, decals, any type of marketing for your business.
If you watch the video, you guys have a shop dog.
We do.
What's the dog's name? Sprocket. I think any place that you can go to work and have a shop dog is probably pretty okay with me. So we wanted to thank you for coming out today. We have this proclamation for you, and we're going to take a quick picture. Okay, moving on. We have a presentation tonight from our city treasurer. I'd like to invite Chad Willardson, city treasurer, to provide the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. How's everyone doing? Good to see you guys. All right, this is a very exciting PowerPoint with numbers and graphs and stuff, so everyone who's watching this is very excited to see it. We do have some good news, so I'm excited to share it. We put way too much text on this slide, so no one will read it, but hopefully it's made available to anyone who's interested in some excellent reading on what the city treasurer does in this city. I still get random requests, like people asking me and telling me that we need a stop sign somewhere, or why don't we have some kind of a school somewhere? And it's like, I have nothing to do with that, but our council, I'm on all these great emails that our mayor and everyone replies to all, and we're very attentive to the citizens who have questions. But essentially, I'll give a quick report on what the bond markets are doing, what's happening with the city investment accounts in the portfolio, and just some updates. So, notable changes and improvements. One thing that affects the city and the city employees that we did in the last couple years, which I think is really significant because this started many, many years before, and it's affected everyone who's a part of the city, and that's consolidating the retirement plans for city employees and city staff. One of the first things I noticed after being elected just for the city HR benefits was that the cost and the efficiency of the retirement plan investments were subpar, in my opinion. We had a significant asset base with a lot of employees. What's our total employee count here now in the city, by the way? 850, yeah. So it's fluctuated a lot, but you got 850 families that we want to retain great people here in the city, and I think making a change in the retirement plan was significant. We cut the costs by, I think it was over 80%. Kim could correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a significant cut in expenses for employees, and we've increased the accessibility of certified financial planners to talk with any city employee about retirement or investment questions that they have, which is a great benefit, great for recruiting, great for retention, and I feel very good about the fiduciary that we're working with, so that's great. Got to tip my hat to our city manager, Jacob Ellis, and the finance committee for the pension obligation bonds. This was something that went through in October 2021. It's a big press release, you all know about it. I think the significance of that move is much bigger today than it was back then. And I felt urgency as Jacob and the team was going through this because I'm paying attention to the markets and interest rates were literally at all-time lows. Money was below inflation. It costs less to borrow money than to save money, so it was like it made a lot of sense to refinance debt. And if you just look at a 30-year mortgage in the last 6 months, reaching as high as 6 or 7% for a well-qualified buyer, and just think about people who got 30-year mortgages for 2.25%, right? And so the city made an incredible move, refinanced the pension obligation bonds, and the significance of that right now is incredible. As you see, inflation has skyrocketed, interest rates have tripled, and just today there was another rate hike that was only a 1/4 point. It's still inching up higher. So the overall theme of what I'm reporting on today is that the city's done a great job in reducing its expenses, locking in debt at a really low rate, And what we did in the investment portfolio was exactly the opposite. We kept our powder dry by investing in much shorter term bonds, knowing that eventually rates would have to increase. And so our guidelines are essentially 0 to 5 years in maturity, meaning we can invest in something that matures in 2028, but we're not investing in things that mature in 2033 or 2038. So we have a little bit of room to play with within those 5 years. And what we've done in the last few years is really hang on the short end of that curve. So more than half of our bonds were due in less than 2 years as rates were at these all-time lows. Well, now we're getting rates 4, 5, 5.5%. And so we're locking these in because these are not going to be here forever. And that makes a significant difference on the income and the yield for the portfolio. City's credit rating has improved, obviously. We established the Section 115 trust. I think that's significant. That was something that took a lot of work from the city staff, and they did a great job. We made our first contribution in June of last year for $30 million. I talked with Chandler yesterday, and the value is about $34 million. So in 9 months, over a 10% growth. In that account, we are allowed to invest in stocks and the stock market. So it's a little more fun for me, I'll be honest. I can see some more growth, and I can see us having a lot more opportunities there as we're contributing each year. So 30 to 34 million, that's been a great positive return so far. So just rewinding back, 2016 is the year I always baseline to because that was when I was first elected, and I feel like overall the city's financial health is significantly improved. I really enjoyed working with the people I worked with back then, but I also feel like the efficiency, attention to detail, the quality of answers, even when I'm asking Kim for stuff, the responsiveness, the quality of answers and all that has been improved in the last 7 years. So I think we've upgraded in many ways. Looking at the portfolio itself, total portfolio value was $203 million, and the annual income that year was $2.7 million. This slide I made as of March 31st. It's already significantly outdated as far as portfolio value, but the investment portfolio has way more than doubled, and the projected income for this year is almost triple that year of 2016. So we expect almost $7.5 million in income. So in the yellow, I just highlighted the summary. We've got higher account values. We're earning higher interest rate. The yield's better. Lower fees for the city retirement plans, lower interest rate, and lower debt costs on the city's future pension obligations. So I guess looking back over the last 7 years, there's been so many improvements in the financial stability and health of the city, and I'm excited for some of the things that we can do with this money, because it's nice to have it on paper, but talking to the staff and the team, knowing that we're going to have ideas later in the year dealing with parks and trails and other things like that, the Grand Master Plan, the fact that we can actually have the funds in reserves to implement and execute on those ideas, to me is exciting, because I like seeing it actually put to use. The last couple years, interest rates were historic lows. So you can see, even though we've been building up our account balance, the income was much lower. That's different today. That's why we see that spike. I feel like the interest rates are one of the hardest things to predict in the markets. Interest rate changes, no one really knows how it's going to go. But with inflation as high as it is, with the job market strong, with consumer spending still pretty strong, I spoke on a news on KTLA today for an interview about the interest rate announcement, and it was essentially they were asking me what I thought of Jerome Powell's comments, and if I thought that they were going to pause or cut rates in the next 6 to 8 months. That's completely a trap question. I would never answer that exactly, but it feels like we're towards the end of the hiking cycle, way closer to the end than to the beginning, and they can't really, if they overdo it It's going to cause a lot of challenges in the economy. There's debates whether we're in a recession now, whether we had a mild recession last year, or whether we're about to go into one. Either way, I'm very happy that as a city we have reserves, and I think that's important. Is that sales tax revenue? I don't think it's going to continue increasing at the pace that it has increased, and I think that's what the report recently said from our consultants. But the fact is, we're prepared, and we do have reserves. And I think that's, we're just in a much healthier position. I remember the talks with previous city manager and finance department, and there was a lot more stress and worry about our financial situation than there is right now, and that's a good spot to be in. So that's my report.
Thank you. We probably all sleep a little bit better knowing that you are helping us out with our finances. So thank you very much. And Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public on the proclamations or presentation?
Mayor, no, we do not have any speaker cards.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions
Sure,
for Chad?
absolutely. Not a question, but I just wanted to say, thanks again. And I want to say thank you to the residents of the city of Corona for, electing you for a second term. I was really pleased. I'm always happy to see your update and seeing how well we're doing. And I too feel that we're in a great position. But not just for the investments and the changes that we've made, but for your stewardship of our current funds. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chad. Keep up the great work.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, and I will say this, I'm not here a lot. I'm not in the public a lot with the city stuff, but behind the scenes, I'm doing a lot of stuff with Kim and the team. And Kim is great to work with. Her department is awesome. They deserve a lot of credit for implementing the ideas that get brought forth. So appreciate working with her and the team. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to our meeting minutes. The special meeting of April 13th, 2023, the study session of April 19th, 2023, and the city council meeting of April 19th, 2023.
So moved.
Seconded.
Please vote. Okay, that item passes. Moving on to our consent calendar, all items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine matters, status reports, or documents covering previous city council action. The items listed on the consent calendar may be enacted in one motion with the concurrence of the city council. A council member or any person in attendance may request that an item be removed for further consideration. Do any of my colleagues would like to pull any items for consent?
Yeah, number 12.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so moving on,
Mayor, sorry, I not to pull, but I do want to note that I need to recuse myself for 19.
I was just going to announce that.
Okay, thank you.
So, gosh, how are we going to vote on the ones that we can without them having to recuse themselves on those items?
They can recuse themselves and they can vote on the consent calendar, recusing themselves from those items. If the items are pulled from the agenda, they have to leave the room, but if they are not pulled, they can stay in the room.
Okay, well, they were not pulled unless, are there any speaker cards from the public?
There are not any speaker cards for the
Okay.
consent calendar.
So items 19, 20, and 24, which were the items that they needed to be recused from, are not pulled. Only items 12 and 15, so we can,
Yes, and Councilmember Speak is recusing himself from agenda item 20 and 24.
so
And,
should we just do all of the items that are not pulled, and then 19, 20, and 24?
No,
fill
we
them
can
out?
do the consent calendar together.
Okay,
And then the minutes will reflect that they recuse themselves.
okay,
I'm recusing myself from those two items because I live in that district.
Yep.
Ditto.
Okay, so then, do we have a motion for the items that are available to vote on?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, so moving on to item number 12, Councilmember Speak pulled that item.
Thank
Councilmember
you.
Speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Ellis, could I get a report on this? I had a couple questions and,
Item 12?
yes, sir.
Yes. Tom Moody, Director of Utilities, can answer any questions you have on this.
Good afternoon, Mayor, and good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you. The item before you tonight is a Vactor jetting truck. This truck is used for multiple purposes within a utility department. One portion of the truck is used for hydrojetting sewer lines. This is what is used to open up blockages that may occur from grease or other materials in the sewer lines. The vehicle is also used for cleaning out lift station wet wells. Wet wells are typically in a range between 20 to 35 feet deep, and around the edges of the wet wells, there can often be a lot of grease buildup. With the water floating up on top, the grease will stay up on top and it begins to build up on the walls. As that grease gets heavy, it can break away off of the walls and drop down and actually clog the pumps and cause some damage. Backups and sewer overflows, which are things that we're working always constantly to avoid. One of the items that is on the council agenda tonight that was passed was the sanitary sewer management plan. And part of that is us doing proper operations. The other portion of the truck is also used for hydro excavation. As we all know and see throughout town, there's a lot of different infrastructure going in and around water lines. There's fiber optic cables, and a lot of that stuff is directional bored and directional drilling. So as we get near a water line that has what we believe to be either electric or fiber optic or something, it becomes more and more difficult for us to get our backhoes and other things in there. So we'll often use a hydro Vactor truck that will be able to hydro excavate. It's got a large suction tube on the front, and similar to what we're using for, and we'll just draw that out and be able to, excavate a little bit safer during and around those other utilities. And with that, I'll be able to answer any questions.
Thank you. I appreciate the explanation. My question was really around, we currently contract for these services outside, correct?
Some of them we do. So all of our sewer cleaning is contracted out through currently a company, Houston and Harris. We've also used Interline Engineering in the past. The expectation is that we would still continue to use them. We are not currently proposing to man the truck with staff members full-time that are going around and doing jetting. This would be additional cleaning and support. So for example, our lift station cleanings cost us about $18,000 if we were to do them on a regular basis, and we want to increase that from the once a quarter to every other month. And so that's going to be a savings of about $100,000 if we were going to contract that out.
So $100,000 per
year.
Per year, okay. All right. And so, great, yeah, that's my biggest question. I just wanted to see if there was an offset, because this is an expensive piece of equipment, and partly because it's because of our AQMD issues, we have to buy something that doesn't burn fossil fuels or some kind of fossil, anyway, gasoline or diesel. So I just wanted to check and see. And we did do a cost-benefit analysis on this, and I think you said it would be 7 plus years.
Yeah, generally speaking, just looking at the basic services that we're planning on doing, additional lift station cleaning, some of the hydro excavation, yeah, we have it between about 5.5 to 7.5 years. Some of those are costs that are a little bit hard to reflect in a hard ROI. And generally speaking, there may be other opportunities that help support that number as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
And if there's no other questions, I'll move to approve. I'm sorry, do you have any questions for the public?
No, I do not have any speaker cards.
Okay. I'll second the motion then.
I've already seconded the motion.
Because he pushed the button.
I did
That's what
push
heard.
the button. You need to follow the rules, Mayor.
You're right. Okay, that item passes. The next consent item was item number 15, pulled by Councilmember Steiner.
Yeah, Jacob, this is probably for Savat, well, I know it is, but with the release of the rough grading security for the Lincoln, or for DR Horton development, does that serve as some sort of a catalyst to be able to finally do the repaving at Lincoln and High Grove, or is there another trigger point we're still waiting for?
Savat? I believe we still have the public improvements securities. So this is mainly for the rough grading on site and not
Right.
necessarily the public improvement. So there's one more trigger left.
Okay.
But in terms of the timing of this fall, in terms of starting the paving Lincoln, we're still on track.
All right, thanks, Savat.
Did you want to, no other questions?
Was there anybody
Was there
want to
any
speak on
questions
it?
from the public?
Mayor, no, we do not.
Move to approve.
Second?
Let's see who pushed the button first.
I already pushed the button.
I'm glad that it has only taken me 3 months to get you guys to start pushing the button. Okay, moving on to communications from the public. This portion of the agenda is intended for general public comment on items within the council's jurisdiction that are not listed elsewhere on the agenda. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on these items. Please observe a 3-minute time limit for comments, and once called upon to speak, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Ms. Edwards, do we have any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, yes, we have 4 speaker cards for communication from the public.
Thank you. Come on down. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Mrs. Casillas, how you doing? How's everybody else doing? Good to see you tonight. I live in the city of Paris, but I was born and raised in the city of Corona. I'm here to invite you to a veteran suicide awareness walk that will be held on Sunday, May 21st, this month at 10 a.m. This is a collaboration between both American Legion posts and Corona Post 216, the William H. Jameson Post, and Post 742, the Joe Dominguez Post. Veteran suicide, the numbers range anywhere from 17 a day to 40 a day. During the walk will be 2.2 miles. We will stop at the Veterans Memorial here in Corona, where we will lay a wreath in honor of Ruben Rosso. Ruben Rosso was a Vietnam veteran, Corona born and raised. He was the driving force behind the memorial here. He passed away a couple of weeks ago, and his service is this Friday. But please come out and walk with us, okay? Invite your friends and family. This is about veteran suicide. It's happening every day, too many times. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for this time.
If you could, really quick, could you tell me the date and where is the start and the time?
It's on my birthday, and it's...
The date is Sunday, May 21st. Starts at 10 a.m. at Post 216. You know where that's at, on the corner of 11th and Main. We'll come down to the memorial, lay a wreath for Ruben, and then we will proceed on to Post 742. I have some flyers here that I will leave with the clerk for you all. And for anybody else that wants a flyer, please raise your hand. I'll be more than happy to give you one, okay? Hope to see you all there. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Have a good evening. Thank you for your time.
You too. Welcome.
Well, good evening, Mayor, magistrates, Philadelphians. Wake up, you live in Babylon, you know? So anyway, I'm here to do you guys a really big favor, okay? I love you guys. I have grace for you. The city, the police force has actively pursued the interests of pedophiles over those of parents. And you know that. I've explained it to you for a long time. But now, you know, I have a church. I'm Cannabis for Christ, and my church is 942 Brandywine Lane, and I am recognized by the city of Corona. I'm a Corona church, okay, under your auspices, okay? But the police force has worked actively with pedophiles and gang members and sex workers to take over my church and give it to them, you know, instead of me. And now I love these people, just like I love you guys. You know what I mean? Jesus said that there's more hope for the tax collectors and the what was that? The prostitutes than for the people in the church. Okay, so that you guys qualify. Okay, you work for Babylon and you qualify, and my family does too. But there's nobody that should be pastor in my family but me. Okay, I'm the only one that can handle pedophiles and sex workers and gang members. You know, I can go toe to toe with them, with murderers. I'm an apostle to murderers. Now I say, if you guys give me $24,000 in the next 2 weeks, and we come together, we work together on this Cannabis for Christ World of Science Firefall Fest, Harvest Crusade Firefall Fest, where we're going to prove that we're teaching children in whorehouses, man. I was molested by my teacher, Angie Venegas, and she was really Greg Laurie's secretary at Harvest, you know what I mean? And they are keeping they're keeping pedophiles from justice. They're hiding their pedophiles. The church I was going to that put a restraining order on me while they came to arrest me for telling him the truth about cannabis. He actively has a pedophile and a homosexual working in the children's ministry. Now, I don't think they're taking advantage of the children, but I don't think they should be there, you know? And I think that we need to make straight the way of the Lord because he's on his way, okay? And he's coming in like 7 to 13 years, and I want to work together with you guys, man. Okay, let's get together and let's prove that Jesus exists, that God exists, and I can do it scientifically. I came up with the theory of everything, man. I'm asking the World Science Festival, Brian Greene, to help me prove to you guys that I've got it, man. And also that we need to take the schools out of whorehouses and teach our children the truth about who they are. They're God's children, okay? And so are you. God bless you guys. Thank you very much for letting me share.
Good evening.
Good evening. So on a lighter note, Palbinder Badesha and Marta Cortez were with the Corona Chamber of Commerce and both own small businesses, Express Employment Professionals and
Eduardo's Mexican Restaurant.
Yes. We're here to announce and are pleased to announce the collaboration with the City of Corona and the Chamber of Commerce on having our second Corona-wide job fair. It's going to be happening on Saturday, May the 20th, from 9 a.m. to 12 noon at the Circle City Centre. And everybody is welcome to come by. I'm pleased that the mayor will be saying a few words. It is open to all members of the public. We will have local companies there as well as non-profits and educational institutions all hiring. And we look forward to having you there and getting commuters off the road. Martha is now going to translate.
Buenas tardes al señor alcalde y al resto del consejo. Vamos a tener una feria de trabajo el día 20 de mayo de 9 a 12 en el Circle City Center que está en la calle Main Street y Harrison, creo que es. Va a ser de 9 a 12 y todos están bienvenidos a venir a aplicar. Va a haber empresas de todo tipo, incluyendo empresas no lucrativas. Habrá opción para todos, así es que si están buscando trabajo o saben de alguien que está buscando trabajo, por favor, invítelos a ir. Va a ser un evento muy bueno y habrá, como dije, oportunidades para todos. Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that it was wonderful behind you, Ms. Cortez. Paul Bender was nodding in agreement as if she understood every word. And it wouldn't surprise me if she did understand every single word. But
I agree.
yep, what a great opportunity for the city of Corona and the city of and the Coronans that are looking for work to get off the freeway or maybe move up in their career. So thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you.
Thank you for your partnership.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council, City Manager, sir. So I'm here to promote the Corona Cinco de Mayo fiesta that's happening on Saturday, May 6th, from 11 to 5 p.m. Cinco de Mayo Committee has been on idle for 3 years due to COVID. So we're kind of just, we want to bring this event back. We want to bring it back in full force, but we're going to start slow this year. We're going to just start with the fiesta. We're eliminating the parade this year, and next year we'll be back with the parade. We have had a great success in our fundraising thus far. We had 4 students from the Corona Norco Unified School District go out and fundraise for us, and I'm proud to announce that we have a queen. We crowned a queen yesterday for Cinco de Mayo 2023 Queen Angela Guzman, and their princesses Sally Heredia, Julene Padilla, and Serena Maciel. So the Corona Cinco de Mayo Committee is a committee that focuses on raising funds for scholarships for the Corona Norco Unified School District. Also, it's an event for the community. We are very excited that we're back and we're passionate about what we're doing. It's our 49th year that we're celebrating the Corona Cinco de Mayo. And it's something that we hope that continues strong for the future and that we get the support of the council and the managers and all the staff. I really do appreciate everything you've done thus far. I know there's some behind the scenes stuff that's happening at the last minute, and I appreciate everything that you're all doing. But please come out in the community. It's Saturday, May 5th, May 6th, 11 to 5, and we'll have a car show. We'll have entertainment, food, vendors, folklorico dancers, mariachi, you name it, it'll be there.
So if this is the 49th, next year we have to go big for the 50th.
Yeah,
right?
we have to go big. Yeah, we have to double the budget.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'll make it brief. Joe Morgan, 2063 Ren. I just wanted to give a get well soon to our friend Don. He had a miss tonight. He's not Don Fuller. He's homesick, and he said he's going to watch, but he's nursing some sort of infirmity and a fever. So he wanted, I know it's probably tearing him up not being here. So, anyways, I just want to kind of give him a shout out. So tell him, wish him well. Thank you.
Thank you. Certainly wish a speedy recovery for Mr. Fuller as well. Okay, moving on to public hearings. Public hearing for City Council consideration of the 2023-2024 Action Plan for Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Programs. Does any council member want a staff report on this item? Okay.
Of course.
Ms. Lara, that is you. Community Assistance Manager will provide a report.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, and council members. The action plan for the year 2023, fiscal year 2023-2024 has been prepared in accordance to meet HUD regulations so we can receive our annual allocation of CDBG and home funds. This annual action plan is also year 4 of our 5-year consolidated plan. Briefly, the topics I'll be covering here are the resources, which are the allocations and the carve-outs under each allocation, as well as the components of the action plan is listed there, which are our community facilities and housing category, our public services, our home activities, as well as our administration. This year, we've been allocated $1,181,327 under the CDBG program, and $526,260 in home. The reason why you see there that we have an actual 1.2 million and some changes because we have some money left over, projected about $54,000 projected to carry forward. That brings our allotment to 1.2 million. And HUD does prescribe how these funds are carved out per program. As you see in the pie chart there, we have a carve out of 15%, a mandatory 15% carve out for public services. That's the cap that we can spend on public services. A 20% carve out for our administration, and then the remainder, which is 65% for our housing activities or community facility activities. I often refer to this as capital improvements or capital, so that's really what I mean when I use that. It could be a housing activity or some other community facility activity. And so under this housing/community facility activities, we have code enforcement, which is an eligible activity under our consolidated plan under the housing activities. And so what we do is here on an annual basis, we carve out $100,000 to share with our community, with our planning department. And what that does is that provides funding for what is equivalent to a code enforcement 2 position to address the CDBG eligible housing and dwelling areas. And then the remainder of that allotment of $721,000 is recommended to go towards year 2 of our 3-year park plan. The year 2 park plan includes activities at both Sheridan and Victoria Park. And this next year, they will be demoing the restrooms to install a single-use prefabricated restroom at that park. And at Victoria Park, there will be some rehabilitation of the actual structure to create smaller classrooms. This slide here represents all of our service providers. Our service providers, we have committed to 4 years of grant funding for them, and this would be their 3rd year. ABC Hopes, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Peppermint Ridge starting over, and Voices for Children would all get an equal share of $28,839 each. And then fair housing has been increased to $33,000 because fair housing, as we all know, is something that we need, and they serve our entire community. This is not just for our CDBG eligible area. This is our entire community that gets fair housing services as needed. And last but not least is our home program funds. This allotment of funds is also prescribed carve out that allows us to use 10% of this allotment for our administration, 15% for a CHODO reserve carve-out, and a CHODO is a community housing development organization. It's a very specific nonprofit organization that focuses solely on the creation of affordable housing, rehabilitation of affordable housing, and last is the largest amount that goes towards our home qualified activities. And so under our consolidated plan, what we have agreed to as you, the council, and the community was that we would put towards the tenant-based rental assistance program that would help with our homeless solutions activities. That concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Lara.
Mayor, if I can jump in real quick, I think Mr. Steiner.
Yeah,
needs to recuse
Mayor Daddario, I sit on the Peppermint Ridge Board, so I need to recuse myself from this. So, let me step out.
See you later. You can't leave, though. Okay, the public hearing is now open. Ms. Edwards, has the city clerk's office received correspondence regarding this item?
Mayor, we did not receive correspondence.
Okay. Ms. Edwards, did we receive any speaker cards from the public?
Yes, Mayor, we have 1 speaker card.
Come on down.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, staff, Ms. Laura. My name is Kathy Shaner, and I am the Community Outreach Coordinator for Voices for Children. We are very grateful for you to consider our program for the CDBG grant. Voices for Children is a local nonprofit that provides a court-appointed special advocate, or a CASA for short, to children that are in foster care. CASAs are community volunteers who are trained and supported by our staff to advocate on behalf of children in foster care. Each child who enters foster care has experienced some type of abuse or neglect or abandonment. And throughout their years in foster care, that abuse and abandonment can continue on as they change placements frequently and school districts. And so then they lose contact with their friends, family, peers, and community. But a CASA is a reliable friend and adult that can help them through this trying times. They're amazing volunteers that get to know the children through consistent meetings and fun activities, and then they get to advocate for the youth in their school, in the courts, and in their community. I'll leave you with a quick story of one of our local CASAs here at Corona. 16-year-old Elisa was first paired with Casa Joanna in late 2020. Elisa told Joanna that she was eager to graduate from high school, but Elisa was struggling with school. She wasn't on track to graduate, and with the pandemic and distance learning, she struggled to keep up with her classes. Casa Joanna quickly jumped in and scheduled meetings with their teachers on a weekly basis, attended all of the conferences with her staff at the school, and helped her recover some lost school credits that happened when she transitioned between school districts. We're honored and excited to announce that this June, after 2 years of hard work and dedication on Elisa's behalf and the support of Casa Joanna, she is not only going to graduate from high school, but she is also planning to attend community college in the fall. We are continually impressed by the strength, resilience, and determination of the children we serve. Thank you so much to you all for considering us for this amazing grant, and we look forward to continuing to work with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any questions or comments from my colleagues?
Just a thank you. Thank you for continuing. I mean, this is, love seeing that we're in the fourth of a fifth year and seeing all the great things that are happening, and thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you also for managing this program. I want to remind everyone that we switched the way we implement this CDBG grant. We used to do annual grants to nonprofits, and these funds are so coveted, and the dollars are large, but in some ways they're small. And by switching the way that we've done it and now doing it every 4-year cycle, these nonprofits now get to count on funds for 4 years and get to invest heavily in growing. And the goal has always been for these funds to help these nonprofits establish something big and then self-sustain it. So I'm excited to see the end of the cycle. I do wonder, when it's all said and done, will you come back, will the nonprofits come back and tell us, this is what we've been able to do over the last 4 years? I really would love a moment to kind of internalize the impact of a 4-year cycle of CDBG fund programming. Because I love that Voices for Children always shows up. We really do appreciate it. I think it makes us feel good about the impact of this program, but I really would love to see all of these nonprofits at the end of 4 years. What did you do with all these funds? Like, talk to us about how this made a difference in the community. I think that would be a really great moment.
I think that's probably something that we could probably work out. We'll just add that to Ms. Lara's overflowing plate. Thank you so much for managing this program. I'm sure it's not been easy, and I'm sure sometimes it was pretty hard, but I'd be willing to bet you that all of these programs really appreciate the stability of those funds. So
I'll make the motion to approve.
Sorry, Mayor, can you please close the public hearing?
Oh, I thought I did.
You didn't.
I'm sorry. The public hearing is now closed.
I'd now like to make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
I think I already pushed the button. Oh, it was you anyway. Please vote. Okay, that item passes 4-0. We were going to send the chief out on a APB for you, Jim. Yep. Okay, moving on to administrative reports. This is a request. This is a continuation of a request from Councilmember Speak to discuss potential revisions to the city's historic resources ordinance, Corona Municipal Code, Chapter 17.63. Jay Eastman, Planning Manager, will present this item.
Good evening, Mayor, member of the City Council, Jay Eastman, Planning Manager with the Planning and Development Services or Development Department. As the mayor mentioned, to provide some background, this item was considered at the council study session on April 19th. At that time, staff provided an overview of possible revisions to the Historic Resources Ordinance. There were 5 topics that we asked council to give some input on. At the meeting, we got through 2 of those items, and 3 were remaining for some discussion. This exhibit here, slide shows those 2 items, A and B, which we discussed. So we are asking at this time that council give input on the final 3 items, C, D, and E. Wrong way. Here we go. So our ask is to obtain feedback from the City Council on the 3 remaining potential revisions that were presented on April 19th.
Mr. Eastman, I just want to clarify, on item B, I think we had some suggestions on a commission, and you guys were going to come back to us in order to narrow the scope.
Yeah, so we will take the input that was provided at that time, and we will take all the input here and put together some revisions. And
But did we actually vote to say yes to a commission? There were 3 votes for that?
yes.
All right. You were the swing. Thank you.
Yeah, so as shown on this slide, the next steps for us would be to organize your feedback. We'll review the minutes and our notes, and we will prepare some revisions as suggested, work with the Corona Heritage Preservation Society. We will prepare the guidelines, should you choose to have us prepare revisions to the guidelines to identify architectural styles. And then we will return to you with all of that at a study session. And so I will leave you with this discussion topic slide. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Do you have the architectural styles one more time for us to argue over?
I do have the slides that we provided for you at the last meeting, so I will forward through this. Here we go.
None of these seem really modern enough for me.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know you got 3 votes for the commission, but I could have sworn we didn't finish discussing the scope of the commission.
Can I interject on that one? So that's correct. So the direction that we received was to go forward with preparing what that scope and mandate of that commission would be. And that's part of a longer term discussion that we would come back based on the feedback that we get from this. So that has not been fully rounded out, and there will be further time for the council to determine whether or not those guidelines for the mandate, the scope of what it would oversee and what that would look like, that all will come back as part of a future study session once we get through and get the direction from tonight. So there's more discussion to come on that before that commission is finalized. We simply got the direction to move ahead with building those guidelines for it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so did you want to present these styles, or are we just going to pick from these 6?
I think it's all 6.
Yeah.
I think we could do all 6, and there's probably a few more styles that fit the time period that could be added to it.
And I think the idea is, I think Councilmember Steiner said this the last time, I think we can kind of draw a big circle, and then when we come up with the scope for the commission, that they maybe make a couple of other recommendations. But the idea is that we want to pick styles that would occur in the time frame that the city is deemed historic, which is what you see. So I think there are some tweaks and different things. So the idea would be for us, do we want to pick a set of architectural styles, correct? That'd be, it's kind of a thumbs up. Do we want to have an architectural style, or a thumbs down, do we not? Am I correct there, sir?
That is correct. We're not selecting the styles today. These styles that you see here are directly from our guidelines. The pictures aren't, but the styles that are identified are from our existing historic preservation guidelines, and they are what apply to a historic building. The question that comes into place is when we start talking about a property that's vacant, therefore it has no historic building on it, or a building that's more current, constructed in 1970, 1980, and the person wants to do a major renovation to that building, we would like to make sure that that building is consistent with the direction from council. And does the council want to establish a style they need to work towards? Or would something like farmhouse or some other architectural style that might use the materials, but not necessarily the architectural style be appropriate? So that's the guidance we're asking for today as to whether or not you would like us to work to develop a style, what kind of framework to decide on those styles, and we would bring that back to you for consideration.
So can I go? Yeah, go. Mr. Eastman makes a good point. So the earliest settlers, almost like 80% of them were from Iowa. So they all built farmhouse style architecture. And so when you walk within the circle, and actually on the outside of the circle, you'll see a lot of farmhouse style. And I think that's a style in itself. But the goal is to build housing and structures in that time period of the early days of Corona.
Yeah, so the idea is basically big circle, and then that way staff doesn't have to make a decision about what each individual piece. So I think the idea is that we pick, yes, that we want to establish architectural styles, and then that the staff will work with the Historic Commission at a future date to come back and give us actual examples.
But if I'm understanding this correctly, what this means is there's an empty lot, someone wants to build a home, they have to build a home in one of the styles. It's okay. So when we did the downtown, revitalization plan, and the consultant came back with styles.
Right.
What we agreed to there was historical elements, not a box, but elements. If I would imagine, if I'm building a home, that I would be more amenable to incorporating an element rather than building to a style. Can we thread that needle rather than forcing the development to be one of these, whatever, if it's not 6, it's 12, whatever?
What is the objection to a historical building, though? Why, it's just as cost effective to build a new home in this style as it is a stucco house.
Well, it's about independent interest. If I'm building my own home in a historic district, what if I don't want it to look like a Victorian Queen Anne house?
Then why are you building in a historic district?
What if that's where I have land? I don't know. For whatever reason, I'm building a house there, right?
I think that's the whole idea behind this is that we, you haven't been on one of the famous Tom Richins tours where he can show you the houses that don't fit in.
Yeah, I haven't.
And so there's
I've heard
some,
of it.
There are some ideas that when you travel down, I would say travel down Palm. Palm is probably a really good example of you see homes within about a 20 or 30 year period, and they all kind of go together. There's a couple little ones that are goofy, but they're still within that time frame. And then you turn left onto Grand, and you'll see a home that was built in the 90s that doesn't look like anything. It's completely out of place. And that's the idea. The idea is not to limit people. I mean, you're to limit people to a certain era, but to have something that fits, because the charm of the area, like if you go on the wood streets in Riverside, you travel down those streets, they're all built within a 20 or 30 year period, and they wouldn't allow something that like you would see at the corner of Grand and Palm, or at the corner of 11th and Victoria that looks completely out of place.
I'm just thinking about the rights of the homeowner, of the developer, to make something that they want. So how do we future-proof that?
You give them another area of the city to build in.
You say, hey, homeowner, you can't make your house here the way you want it.
Well, that's the kind of the point of historic districts is it's not one house that's a district, it's a lot of houses that's a district. And in historic, people flock to these districts to build these houses. Like, there is great value in having big historic districts. And I get it, it's not for everyone, but People that buy houses in historic districts are because they want to live there. The common person probably wouldn't even look inside a historic district to build a house because there's so many other opportunities, other places in the city to do so.
And just a few months ago, we actually provided a discount in fees to build in a historic district. We're trying to incentivize folks to build in a historic district and build in a historic style. This is kind of the follow-on.
I understand. I have
I
concerns.
get what you're saying.
So Mr. Eastman said something that I picked up on that kind of gives me a little bit of heartburn. If there's a dirt lot, if there's an empty lot.
Yeah.
And I can understand asking to have, or, having these standards to build. But when he said taking a newer house or a house that's not of these styles that somebody wants to renovate and then having to renovate it into one of these styles, that to me is an absolute no.
I agree with you. I think that if there's a home that's not built in one of these styles right now, and they were going to be doing substantial renovations to them, that we wouldn't force them to go into this.
I think it would be wrong to force them into it.
Yeah.
So there's some condos and apartments within the circle, right? And they were built in the 60s and 70s, like you said. You can't impose on those people to convert to historical. Those have been built, they're there, they're established. Now, if they want to knock them down and rebuild them, which I would prefer, then that's another thing. But you can't force people to modify existing structures significantly like that.
Yeah, I'd like that to be put in there. And I will also challenge you, it is not inexpensive to build a Victorian Queen Anne. That's going to be a very expensive home to build, and much more expensive than a regular two-story
Well,
house.
then pick a Victorian hip roof cottage. That's pretty cheap.
I'm just letting you know. I mean, just
You want that one?
just to clarify it, that's not a
Mission
inexpensive
Revival
home
one's
to
pretty
build.
cheap too.
I could do it.
Sure, you could.
So we want to call a vote on each one of these?
Do we?
On each one of these styles?
No, on the number 3.
Mayor, can I just offer something up real quick?
Please.
Yeah, thank you. So I brought this up at the last meeting, and it didn't seem to gain a lot of traction, but we've already decided we're going to have some sort of a commission, right? Committee, something. And just like the Parks and Rec works with community services on Park and Rec issues. Planning Commission works with staff on planning and development. We've already said we're going to have some sort of historic, don't shake your head. Let them figure this crap out. That's what they do. That's what they're the experts in. Why are we even talking about this?
I think we're still going to let them do it. I think it's just the idea is thumbs up architectural styles.
Let them vet it and
Yeah,
make
yeah.
a recommendation to the council.
Sure.
And we'll make the final decision based on all the research and homework that the experts in the community have already done.
So can I make this easy and just say then I would just vote on the fact that, yes, we want to have established architectural styles, and that the commission will bring us back recommendations.
I'm sorry to interrupt, and I understand this is your discussion. We're really looking for clarity and guidance because staff has had to deal with a lot of feedback due to some infill development within the Grand Boulevard Circle. So yes, Councilmember Steiner, we are here asking for this direction. And if it is the intent of this commission to make sure we do a set of architectural styles within that era, we need to be specific about it so we know how to proceed based on your recommendation. The commission is going to come after we adopt an ordinance, not before. So we do have to kind of understand what we're vetting out now, putting in the ordinance, and then establish that commission. So it sounds like, yes, we do want to have architectural style standards. However, before we come back to this council, still allow us to meet with CHPS. And if there are additional styles, we can present them to you at that time.
It would just seem that the commission would help us.
That's the cart before the horse.
Literally hit the nail on why I don't want a commission. Like
Lost 3-2.
Okay, so a thumbs up?
No, so I want to make sure that we are all in agreement that this is for
We don't all have to be in agreement. It's just
infill
count to
only,
three.
new construction off of raw dirt, not where it says major renovation of non-contributing
It is,
buildings.
I will clarify that. So raw, new builds or any build that's built in this time frame. If you have a house that's built in the 1930s or 1940s, that house has to comply with this. If it's built in the 60s or 70s, no, you don't have to do anything. What I don't want is I don't want a house that's built in 1920 that someone goes and changes into a house that looks like it's built in 1980.
That actually contradicts what we talked about, because those houses are the ones that people may have that are generational houses and they can't afford.
That was a separate thing.
No, it's the same one. It's the same topic. It's the same topic. Because if somebody has a Queen Anne, and
Like I said, I'll keep going back to the same, the staff is just looking for us to give them direction on.
There's
on the
only
site.
one Queen Anne in the city. But to Wes's point, if it's a 1920 house, then you maintain a 1920s house. You don't improve it to a.
Yes.
yeah, but I guess that's where it gets sticky for me, is if they want to put vinyl windows in their Queen Anne, then they should be able to put vinyl windows in their Queen Anne.
No, they shouldn't.
No.
You're not maintaining historical standards at that point.
But what if they want to?
Well,
This is
I
where
would
we're at.
recommend District 4 or 5 or Green River.
But I
great
think you're
places
missing the
to
point.
live.
They may have owned that home since it was built, and that may be the fourth generation of the family that owns that home. And if they can't, and we talked about this, if they can't maintain the historical standards,
It's
we
the same
shouldn't
cost.
force them to.
It's the same, if, anytime you buy a house, whether it's a 60s, a 2020, or a 1910, houses just have costs to them. It's actually probably cheaper to maintain.
100% disagree. It is not. It is not. You go out and you buy a wood window, it's 4 times the cost.
I've
of
lived
vinyl.
through
Mr.
it.
Mayor, I think we can continue to talk in a circle, but we can call for the question. So I'd prefer to call for the question.
Then, well, the question is that's on the screen talks about major renovation of non-contributing buildings, and I said that I'm okay with the architectural styles.
Okay.
On new
So
construction.
I would
infill.
like to make a motion. I know we don't have to physically make a motion, but I'd like, just in order to wrap this up, that is the architectural styles that, as staff has noted, that is for infill and for any home that's built in the same time frame. So do I have a second?
Sure.
I'll second, I'll third.
Well, I'm a no.
I'm a no.
Okay, thank you. Otherwise, we're going to be here all night.
All right, moving on to the next one.
I think D is probably the one that's the easiest one. Yes, we want to expand the criteria so more folks can take advantage of tax savings.
And that's the one where we it's not just,
Not
there's
just
like
the best of
levels.
the best. It's basically if you have a generational home, the folks that want to, or there's people that they need help, this is how you get people help.
Can I add to that for a second? Because I've never liked the rules of the Mills Act and the significance that goes with it, because it's saying that other people are more significant than other people. And it's not. The people that lived in houses that picked fruit in the orchards, they're just as significant as anyone else that lived in this city. So I think we need to get away from the people, and we need to get back to the value of the structures.
I think the whole idea behind this is just to give staff direction that we're changing the eligibility criteria based on what we've mentioned.
Yeah, so currently right now, to be eligible for the Mills Act, you need to have a landmark building. And so we do see a lot of people processing applications for their building to become a landmark so that they can benefit from the Mills Act. And I think this issue did come up and was spoken to by the Preservation Society, where in a case before I was with the city, there was a project that was being asked to be a landmark building so they can participate in the Mills Act program. The Preservation Society felt that it wasn't quite of the level that they would like to have it at for a landmark. So there was some reluctance in making it a landmark. I don't think there was a reluctance in them participating in the Mills Act agreement. So the question here is whether or not the council would be amenable to amending the Mills Act qualifying criteria so that it would allow for buildings that are historic or historical context, but not necessarily a landmark building.
Yes. So more folks eligible to use other people's money.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at the macro picture, it incentivizes all historic structures.
So thumbs up?
Thumbs up.
Okay. Four thumbs up. Next one. I think this is the same one as well. This is
Requirements? Do we have a list of the requirements?
Yeah, so as was expressed on April 19th, currently our criteria is that you would identify work that you would do to the building, enhancements to the building, and that would be part of the agreement. So you would get a tax break on your property if you fix it up in a certain manner. But once you fix it up, there's no criteria by which you need to comply with. And the Mills Act is a 10-year program. It's in place for 10 years. It automatically renews every year. It can be, for violations of the act, it can be voided, or either party can step away from the Mills Act, but it still has a 10-year run on it. And so the question then becomes whether or not the city wants to establish some more rigorous requirements. The example I had provided on the 19th with the city of Fullerton, which recently adopted a Mills Act program. And in that particular case, they have steps. So they require that every year the property owner would submit a annual report on the work that they've done. So it shows that they're implementing the program. At the 5-year mark, there would be a mandatory inspection to show that the work has been done or the progress of the work. And towards the end, at the 10-year, they would be required to enter into a maintenance agreement or an enhancement program if there's more work to be done. And that allows them to continue on in that tax saving program for the additional 10 years beyond. So the question is do we want to step up our program to have more requirements on it for the property owners, or do we want to continue with the current program, which is the one and done kind of idea? You submit it, you get approved, and it continues.
So I'd like to keep it at one and done, and I'll give an example why. It costs a lot of money for staff time. So just the application process on a Mills Act is $2,000-$3,000 before you get through it. And then now you're talking about them coming out and inspecting and then renewing every 10 years. And just the burden on staff time to do all that, and you guys have more important things to do. I think we should keep it where it's at.
Can I?
Go ahead.
And my original idea with this is that I think we need to fall somewhere in between. I don't think that folks need to provide a report and have staff check up on it. I think one of the items that the ideas I had that the Historic Commission would do is one of the items they would do is to go and look at these houses to see if they've done what they said they would do. I mean, it's called a Mills Act contract for a reason. That's the actual title of this thing. And I think when they provide their contract, we can kind of find an in-between, this hybrid version, they're one and done. They provide a work plan of what they're going to do over a 10-year period, and the commission goes and visits these homes. They don't need to go inside the house. They don't even go on the property because it's all on the outside of the house that you can see from the street. That they would just go, and there once a year they would review the homes and say, yep, this is what they said they would do in year one, and they've done it. And the folks that don't do it don't get renewed. And the example that I've been, given, there was a home that was in the circle that had applied to be on the Mills Act, get a Mills Act contract. And two things. One, they were going to paint the house, and two, they were going to change the door. Well, they never did either, and they continued to get the benefit for 10 years. And this would prevent that. I think that I don't want to put any more work on staff. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to establish the Historic Commission, just to again, this is a single meeting, a single visit. They do once a year on these homes that are getting this contract.
It's interesting because I did want to have the conversation about the commission and its scope today because I think it's part of all of this. So I wish we could have done that today. I want to go back to your point that you made at the last meeting, where it was about carrots and not sticks.
Right.
Right? Which is why I'm, was against the architectural style for people who want to make improvements, because if they don't want to make a historical improvement, it's forced on them to make a historical improvement. And I would prefer a carrot rather than a stick. Same thing here. I don't want something punitive imposed on a homeowner.
It's
But I do want to prevent that example. And so I do think that for that example, a commission would be great to do that. Do I want another body making decisions that an elected body should be making? No, but I do want the assistance of experts to help, prevent
Yes,
those
and
kind
they
of
wouldn't be
situations.
making decisions, they'd be making a recommendation.
So it's the Historic Advisory
You can call it whatever you want.
Group.
But I don't know what this hesitation to label it, but it doesn't matter. To me, I just see this as, this is just a check and balance, and there's a way to get it off of staff's plate, and have this group do it.
I would be comfortable with that.
Well, staff is still going to have to come back with the narrowed scope, which we did spend a lot of time on the last meeting, and make sure that that's within the scope, because it's super narrow.
Yeah.
And there's no teeth. They're simply there to advise. That's it.
Well,
It's not their job to have teeth. It's our job to have teeth.
right.
And they can advise to take.
Just like every commission that we have in the city, all they do is make recommendations to this body, every single one of them. None of them make a decision, not one.
Well, you're the one that paused when I said that they shouldn't have any teeth. So, I mean, we can come back with, that's fine, the expanded agreement, and somewhere in the middle that works out for everybody. I mean,
Well,
it's
I think
baffling that you're arguing, that the vice mayor is arguing for, making these houses to be 100% historical, but then there's no
I think he
follow-up
agreed with
on it.
me. I think that he agreed with me, and then, and I think the idea is to provide staff with some
I see it in a
guidelines.
different light. Really, all the Mills Act is there is to incentivize. That's it. And when real estate agents go to sell a historic house, they put it right smack dab in the middle. This house is on the Mills Act, and it attracts people that buy historic houses. You guys are, you don't understand. It's not that they're forced to change out a door or paint the house. They want to paint the house. They want a historic house. They want that look. And it's not the Historic Commission that's going to bat them in the line. It's going to be their neighbors. They're going to go bat them in the line.
Well, Tom, you know the house I'm talking about.
I do, and
They continued to flaunt it until someone knocked on the door and said, you didn't do what you said you were going to do.
yeah, and that's what it is. And I get emails that you and I get from the same person.
Yep.
And that's going to be your enforcement. But it's the Mills Act is the carrots. And you want to give those carrots to as many qualified people as possible.
Mayor, if it's helpful, I believe staff have the direction that they need now.
Thank you.
Well, it's going to come back for a vote, so we'll see, hopefully. Hopefully they were paying attention. Okay.
I think
clear
that
as mud, I
every
guess?
single where I have no doubt, no question at all that we have our crack team and planning will be all over this.
Okay. Ms. Edwards, do we have any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, yes, we have one speaker card.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Joe Morgan, 206 Ren. It's odd to hear you guys debating whether to have objective development standards for a historic district when we have objective development standards for virtually every area of the city now. I sat through the discussion for Arantine Hills at the time. These houses will have this style and they will look like this. They will be within this window. And everybody in Corona would crap a Twinkie if somebody built a black glass enclosed 2-story loft in the middle of the circle. If you built something, ultra modern, contemporary, you'd know that was wrong. And I think it's easy enough. We have these standards. We just adopted them for the affordable housing overlay areas. We have objective standards. You give people a lane and say, within this lane and that lane, build what you want. And you could have a threshold that says, look, if you do improvements over blah, blah, blah amount, and when you do improvements on a house, you have to declare under penalty of perjury how much you spent and what you did. And so if it kicks in and it's over this amount of money, then there's some project review. So you say it's 100,000, have an escalator to the whole thing, that goes by every year. That'd be simple enough to do. We do that kind of stuff anyway. So they're not saying, well, you have to build, Little House on the Prairie replica kind of a thing. It's nothing like that. It's just you're not going to do the ultra modern thing that doesn't fit in a historic district. I really kind of think the historic district ought to be bigger. It ought to really go from Lincoln to Rimpaw, say Olive, to the north side of Grand, maybe Railroad, because that's where the old houses are. You had the lady that came in here with the rezoning, has one of the oldest houses in Corona. She's on the other side of Grand by a real estate office. We have all through that entire area, we have houses of note and historic type houses. And we can preserve, we still have a lot to preserve. And as time goes on, we're going to really wish that we did this if we didn't do this, if we don't do this. We're losing a little bit every year, and it's not about beating somebody over the head with a stick. It really isn't. You can incentivize people to go the right direction and have standards that keep some cohesiveness in a historic district. And one last thing, I heard it hurt a lot to hear that you thought that a historic commission or a historic advisory group would dilute the power of the council. It's not dilutional. This is more of an alloy type of a thing. I've always believed that you're better when you bring more people into the process. I've always believed that you're stronger and you're better and you make better decisions when you talk to more people about it. And I believe that we believe that same thing. It's one of the reasons we worked together previously. So I don't think it makes you stronger. It doesn't make you weaker. Thank you very much.
Okay, so there's nothing really to vote on for that one, so I think we're moving on to item number 27. The resolution revising the citywide master fee recovery schedule to adjust the Kids Club after-school recreation program fee effective June 2nd, 2023. Dr. Turner, Community Services Director, will present the item.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. At council's request, we're bringing this item back. We have a difference between revenue and expenditure for the Kids Club program of $133,200, and we have three options that we're offering council tonight to close that gap. The first is to maintain our existing fees and increase the subsidy of the program from 35% to 51% in the additional subsidized amount of $133,200. The second is to increase fees of the program by $13 a week and $3 a week for those in the Temescal area per participant for a total of $65 for the program holistically per week. This would maintain an average of a 20% subsidy, and that would go into effect in the next billing cycle. And then finally, we're offering a phased fee increase. This would increase fees by $6 a week per participant in fiscal year 2024, and by $7 a week and $3 at Temescal per participant in fiscal year 2025. And then the program will maintain its average of a 20% subsidy by the general fund. Any choice that you make this evening will take effect in the next billing cycle. We have already opened registration at the current rates and have let parents know that those rates are under consideration by the City Council, and they would go into effect on August 28th for the September 2023 month. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do I have any questions or comments from my, I'm sorry. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, yes, we have one speaker card.
Didn't realize it was going to go this fast. I just want to strike a blow for some kind of reasonableness as far as the increases, just so that we can, if we can soften the blow to the families that need it. I was thinking that it even might be possible, that it wouldn't be that hard to income qualify this. I mean, you could actually jump off of other programs. Like you want to get a cell phone, you know, show your Medi-Cal card. You know, that's pretty much the qualifications. You could do the same sort of things too. So for people, you know, on a lower income status, we could qualify this. So you could have people pay more with a higher income. If you're not eligible, you know, you could do this. It sounds, you know, I was talking with somebody that thought this is some big bureaucracy you'd have to establish, and it really isn't. You could use somebody else's objective standards for it and say, here, show me this. If you qualify for that, then you qualify for this. And so we need something to soften the blow for the people who can't afford it, you know? And so this performs an important function, and it's worth spending money on if it meets the goal. You know, if it provides a service. I don't know that there's another service that's like this, you know, where kids get, they don't have to leave the school. They don't have to be transported somewhere else. You know, mom doesn't have to pick them up. They don't have to hop on a bus. They don't have to do anything else. They're just at school. It's a pretty unique program, and it's worthwhile doing, you know, but we need to make sure that the people at the bottom end of the income scale aren't unduly hurt. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do I have any questions or comments from my colleagues?
Yeah, I do. I thank you very much for the presentation and the clarification. I think the last graduated proposal, I think, is a good one. Councilmember Steiner's idea, I thought, was a good compromise that still gets us to that, keeps us at that 20% and doesn't have a massive jump. So that's what I'm in favor of.
I'm still in favor of my proposal as well.
Thank you for the presentation, and I want to say thank you for the updated staff report. It was much more, it was thorough, and I appreciated that. I still, you know, have concerns with our logic on why we're moving towards this, because I didn't see an explanation of increased costs. We say that increased costs, but I didn't see where that was. But I think that even digging into that kind of veers us away of what we're discussing tonight, which is the choice that we have as a council. So our prices have gone up. Do we want to pass that cost increase along to parents, considering how large of a price we're passing on to parents? So split it up into 2 years. That's still a large blow in my eyes. And we don't know how many of these parents have multiple children in these programs. We don't know, we don't have data on what these families' situations are like. We just don't collect that kind of information. But even if this is not income qualified, even if hypothetically it's a family that's, you know, doing okay, what we're saying is we want to increase the cost of this program, of their kids' participation, by $2,000 a year. So let's just say 1,000 this year, 1,000 next year. That's still a lot, you guys. That's still a lot. And it could drive and change, you know, what their household budget looks like. And, you know, we've just reviewed our own budget. And I think if there's ever a space where we can use some of that surplus, it's here. We've got a surplus in our budget. So I get, and I can count to 3, so I know where you guys are at, but I want an option D, which is a phased in, but a modified phased in. So rather than pass on the entire increase to parents, can we split it? Can we take on half of that?
What was the number you said per year?
So, and that's one of the details on this memo that changed. I saw the numbers, they didn't, and maybe I'm wrong, but I looked at the previous memo, but when I did the math for the last one, it's from 52 to 65 is the jump for 33 weeks.
We'll just say we did six times 33. $190.
But it's
$6 difference. So $6 this year, $7 next year, is that what I?
No, so weekly,
So
right? So
it is weekly.
Yeah.
So there's 4 weeks in, it is weekly, yeah.
So that's weekly. So it'd be $6 a week, jumping you from 52 to 58
Yes.
a week.
So 33 weeks, right? So 6 times 33, 198.
Oh, there's no summer, right?
So it's 32.
It's 38 weeks, right? Or 33 weeks, the
33
program?
weeks.
33 weeks.
And the total difference between $65 and the original $52 is $13.
Correct.
It's $429.
So I got 33, so we're talking about $6 is 198. So $200 a year, or $24 a month.
I don't
For
know
the
how I
weeks
did
that
that
they're
wrong.
in, the weeks that they're in school.
So we're looking at an annual increase of
$198,
$398, $400.
$198,
$198 for the entire year.
entire year.
I'm sorry, how did I do that math wrong?
Well, because the option last time wasn't a phased in. It was a $13 weekly increase over the course of the program. So at 33 weeks, it would have been $676.
$129.
That would be, no, the $13 increase, which was what was presented to us last
Yeah.
time.
13 times 33
Right.
is 429.
So now with the phased-in approach, it's $6 in addition this week, times 33 weeks is $198. Next year, it will be $7, so it'll be $231 or whatever it comes out to.
Okay, well, that's reassuring. I'm glad I did the math wrong. The impact seems less, and I don't know how
You probably did it for the whole year, and they're not in school all year, so.
well, I appreciate that. That makes it less. Okay, that makes it less. But I stand I stand with the same theory, though.
I get what you're saying.
So anyway, but the blow is less. So that's a good thing.
As I think the only person on this dais that has had kids in Kids Club. It didn't go up during the time because I had a lot of kids in a lot of different kids clubs.
Did
so.
you get a discount because you had multiple kids in Kids Club?
No.
Do we know how many parents have multiple kids in Kids Club?
I don't know that offhand. I can run that data for you.
I'm sure that there's a large percentage of parents that have multiple kids in Kids Club. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I don't know if we have a multi-kid discount. Usually means you just pay double the price.
Well, anyway, I appreciate it. I apologize for doing the math incorrectly. I really do appreciate the new updated memo. I also appreciate my colleagues trying to find a compromise. I really do. I still don't think we should pass along this fee increase to parents. So I am with option A to sustain the existing fees and for the city to step in and subsidize at a larger rate. So thank you.
Vice Mayor?
This item plagued me for a few days the last time because Jackie made a comment that all child care should be free. And I think in time, history will prove her right. I can support the Steiner option and I can support the Jackie option. So Jackie, if you pick up a third, I'm with you. And if not, I'm with Steiner. And
You kind of have to make a vote.
No, I really don't.
What?
If Jackie gets a third, I will vote her way, and if she doesn't, I'm voting Steiner's way.
Confuse the.
That's really where I'm at. I think Jackie makes a good point that the city can do more and step up, and there is an excess revenue of Measure X funds, and kids are very valuable. They're important, and childcare is like I said. One day Jackie will be proven right. So if the city can help out and do a little bit more, great. If not, then the Steiner plan is a very reasonable approach and sensible as well.
If I could just add to that, I don't prefer not to call it the Steiner plan, but look,
think we're just gonna
the
trademark.
employee costs are going to continue to go up and go up and go up. And in 5 or 10 years from now, these folks up here are going to be told, oh, we got to downturn in the economy. It's going to cost $500 a week now to keep your kids, and you got two options. You either shut it down or you give them a 60% pay increase. And everybody's going to lose their mind, just like what happened with water rates.
Yep.
Just do the incremental increases so we don't get too far behind.
Because that's exactly what will end up happening. It'll end up getting cut.
I think that I would hope to think that there are other things that we could cut. However, to be procedurally correct, Councilmember Casillas, you have to make a motion.
So I move to maintain the existing fees at 52 per week, and for the city to subsidize the program at the amount, at the balance, to close that gap.
I'll second it.
Okay, that item fails. So I'm going to move that we follow the city recommendation of option C.
Second? Or somebody else already seconded already?
I didn't do it.
Was there a seconder?
There was, I believe Councilmember Speak said second.
Yes.
Okay.
I couldn't push the button, somebody else already pushed it or something.
Okay, so that item passes. Moving on to item number 28. Fiscal year 2023 Quarter 3 Budget Update and Strategic Plan Progress Report. Julie Kennicott, Budget Manager, and Donna Finch, Assistant to the City Manager, will present this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Quarter 3 report for fiscal year 2023 is before you. I will go through the budget update, and then I will pass it over to Ms. Finch to go over the Strategic Plan Implementation Progress Report and the Operational Performance Update. We will start with the general fund update, which will include the general fund, the Measure X fund, Historic Civic Center fund, and the Pension Stabilization Trust Fund. My apologies on this slide. That number in the blue bar is incorrect and is a typo. Through Quarter 3, we have received approximately 73.1% of our estimated revenue, as compared to 86.4% last year at Quarter 3, primarily due to the pension obligation bond proceeds recorded in the last fiscal year. As discussed during the mid-year update, after working with HDL, we are projecting an increase of $5 million or 10% in the general fund sales tax and $3.3 million or 8.2% in the Measure X fund, for a total of $8.3 million as compared to the cumulative budget of fiscal year 2023. In the current services category, we are projecting an increase of 12.7% or $1.4 million. This includes items such as animal adoption fees, special fire inspections, third-party plan checks, and TRIP programs. Property tax is increasing 6.9% or $3.8 million. Fines, penalties, and forfeitures will see an approximate 19.9% increase. This includes items such as library fines, administration fines, and penalties. And then we are estimating a decrease of roughly 2.7% across all object codes and other taxes. This is the transient occupancy tax, the franchise fees, and the business license taxes. There's also a decrease of 14.4% in the intergovernmental revenues. The reason for this is a reduction in fire mutual aid reimbursements and other grant revenues that we originally anticipated. This table shows you a more detailed version of the information discussed on the previous slide. The column on the left shows the current budget, and then the blue column shows where we anticipate to end fiscal year 2023. It gives you both the dollar change and the percent change. And for each of the categories, and again, this is between the current budget and the projected revenues at fiscal year end. As you can see, the projection shows an overall increase of 7.2% or $14.2 million. Taking a look at the Quarter 3 actuals as compared to the fiscal year projections, through the end of March, the fiscal year is 75% complete and 73.1% of the projected revenues have been received. Due to the timing on some items, not everything follows a regular trend, such as sales tax and Measure X. They look a little behind the 75% trend, but there's always a quarter lag in that information. This is a snapshot of the general fund sales tax. You can see the totals for fiscal year 22 on the left, and with 2 full quarters received in fiscal year 23, the current total is just under $30 million. The current receipts are 13% higher than this time last fiscal year. And then down at the bottom, we have updated the projected estimate, so you can see we have received 51.7% of the estimated revenue. This is the same layout for Measure X. Now that we have a full year to compare to, you can see the totals on the left from fiscal year 22, and with 2 full quarters received in fiscal year 23 at $23 million, we are up 10% over the prior fiscal year. Again, those projected numbers have been updated at the bottom, and we have received 50.9% of the estimated revenue. Moving to the general fund outflows, the cumulative budget is $208.4 million. Again, through March, we are about 75% of the fiscal year being completed, but only 55.6% of the budget has been spent so far. That item number 4, we like to highlight any variance of 10%. So anything that is less than 65% in those departments have been highlighted. And we will move on to the next slide so you can see that full picture. Capital improvement projects is below the trend due to multi-year projects. City Manager's Office is below the trend primarily due to savings related to operations of the homeless shelter. Once operational, trends will follow a more normal pattern. Debt service is low due to timing of when debt payments are paid, generally November and May. Economic development and human resources are trending low due to materials and supplies and contractual obligations. Elected officials are just shy of the 65%, and that is due to some savings in materials and supplies. Finance is trending a little low due to personnel vacancies, materials and supplies, and contractual services. Information technology, they only have 1 position and some projects in Measure X. So they're showing just 14.1% spent, and that's because some of the projects have not been started as of Q3. The maintenance services line needs some cleanup. It's related to the reorganization from last year. We are working on the corrections, and they should be fixed by the end of the fiscal year. And then Public Works is trending a little lower due to personnel vacancies and contractual services. We highlight 4 of the general fund reserves: emergency contingency, budget balancing, pension stabilization, and Measure X. The emergency contingency is equal to 3 months of operating expenditures adjusted at the end of each fiscal year. Budget balancing is a unique reserve for the city. It's been in place for at least 20 years, but starting last year, we no longer add new money into this reserve at the end of the fiscal year. In fiscal year 22, $30 million was transferred to the Pension Stabilization Trust Fund. That is due to the adoption of the pension management plan and moving that money. Those funds are now in a trust and can only be used to fund pension-related costs. The Measure X reserves is a new reserve from the end of fiscal year 22. Each fiscal year, unspent Measure X funds that don't roll into the next fiscal year will go into the reserve, and that reserve amount will be discussed with council each year through the budget cycle. Any questions on general fund before we move on to the utility funds? No? Okay. Overall, the fiscal year 2023 projections show revenues are increasing by 10.6% or $14.2 million collectively compared to the cumulative budget. Some of the highlights on the inflows, looking at the funds individually: electric is increasing by 5.7%, largely due to current services, fines, penalties, and forfeitures, other revenue, and investment earnings. Water is seeing the largest increase of 15.6% or $12.7 million, and this is due to that one-time settlement that we have mentioned throughout the presentations. Lastly, sewer is also seeing an increase by just over $500,000, and this is due to fines, penalties, and forfeitures, and like the other 2 categories, investment earnings as well. This is a snapshot of the cumulative budget compared to the projected estimate, and you can see that it is up by 10.6%, or $14.2 million as discussed on that previous slide. Here we are looking at the fiscal year 2023 projected estimate as compared to the actuals through quarter three. We are at 72% of actuals received. Taking a look back at last year, we were at 62.9% received, which means we are up by 9.1% over this time last year, again, largely due to that one-time settlement. The highlights for utility funds outflows, they are at 37.8% of the budget that has been spent. You can see for each of the categories, electric, water, and sewer, that the CIP budget spent is trending low, and that's because of multi-year projects, so the expenditures don't follow the trend with the quarterly reporting. Water and sewer are both trending low due to personnel vacancies and timing issues on various materials, supplies, and contractual services. Electric is trending higher due to wholesale energy costs. This chart shows the cumulative budget to actuals information, similar to the previous slide, but this one is shown by fund type and department. Overall, the outflows in utilities compared to the cumulative budget at quarter three is 37.8%. This is a new slide that you have not seen before, and that is because the reserve policy for the Utilities Department operating funds was approved by Council on May 18th, 2022. Commencing with fiscal year 2022, the target reserve amount for each of the operating funds shall be set at 90 days. To build the target reserve amount, the Utilities Department shall annually contribute 10% of the difference between actual operating revenues and actual operating expenses for each of the Utilities Department operating funds each fiscal year until the target reserve is met. Depending on the fund, it will take time to hit the target reserve amount. The reserve process will occur annually once the audit and financials are finalized. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer those now.
Just to thank you, and I always appreciate this, getting the snapshot on each quarter, so thank you very much. Good shape.
I'm glad there's being reserves built up. That's really impressive.
Thank you. And now Ms. Finch.
Yes, hello, good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm happy to be here tonight to give the Quarter 3 Strategic Plan Progress Report. I know the City Council is very closely familiar with the strategic plan, so I will just do a quick overview of what the plan consists of for any members of our audience today that are not familiar with the plan. So as you know, we have a vision statement, which is what the city aspires to become through the implementation of this plan. And the City of Corona's vision statement is that Corona will be a safe, vibrant, and family-friendly community. Our purpose statement defines why we exist as an organization and what we are here to do. And that purpose is to create a community where everyone can thrive. We have our 6 values, which reflect our operating philosophy and the organizational behaviors that we commit to, encourage, and support. And our values are that we are bold, humble, driven, honest, kind, and we are a team. And we have our 6 goals, which define exactly what we want to accomplish and maintain through the implementation of our strategic plan. And those goals are financial stability, strong economy, sound infrastructure, safe community, sense of place, and a high-performing government. So for our Quarter 3 progress report, I am happy to report that this item is now available on a new platform called Invisio. This is the first quarter that we are placing the strategic plan updates into this platform, and we are very happy with the features that it provides to make it more accessible to the community. So just a quick overview on what Invisio is. It is a performance management platform that helps us manage and report out on the city's strategic plan. Departments now through Invisio can input their updates directly into their the platform on their strategic goals, actions, and performance metrics. And the information is now going to be stored and visualized in one central location to help us track the progress that we've made and help us drive our decision-making progress. And then in addition, the information is now going to be available on a public-facing dashboard for the strategic plan to go in and access the data, view it in real time once the updates are put in and published. The dashboard is also going to be available for the public to view and help visualize the progress that we've made on our goals and performance metrics. So we're really excited about this new feature. We're hoping that it'll make the strategic plan updates more accessible to the community as well as to the City Council. And I'm going to go ahead and provide just a quick demonstration of what the dashboard looks like right now on the screen. Looks like we're switching over. Okay, there we go. So this is our homepage for the strategic plan dashboard. As you can see, we have each of our 6 goals listed here on the homepage, as well as a progress bar. If you hover over it, it shows what the status is of us achieving the activities for each of the 6 goals. And just a quick overview of what the color codes mean. Green means that the items are on track, and if you hover over it, you can see it's very hard to see because of the small font, but for financial stability, we have 31% of the items on track. Yellow means that work is underway, and I think it's about 6%. I can barely see that. Purple means upcoming, and then blue means completed, and then we have a few items that are in red, which means that they are not started. And then drilling down just deeper into the platform, you can see for financial stability, we have our financial stability progress report, and you'll see this for each of the goals, which is just a snapshot of our progress towards accomplishing our performance metrics here. So you'll see a report of the current reporting quarter over the same quarter for the previous fiscal year, and a comparison of the two, as well as if you slide this bar over the trend that each of these metrics is trending in over the previous year, fiscal year quarter. And then moving down, we have our objectives for each of the goals. And then if you click on the objective, you will get to see just a snapshot of all of our performance metrics that are tied to that objective, along with, if you scroll to the bottom, each of the activities that are tied to each of these performance metrics, and then the progress status based on the color codes we provided below.
Ms. Finch, real quick, this is super cool. What is the difference between upcoming and work underway?
So work underway is basically that we've already started the activity, and we've set the progress at 33% for work underway, 66% for on track, and then 100% for complete. If it's upcoming, that means that it's programmed for a future fiscal year. So it's not necessarily in fiscal year of the reporting period that we're giving, it's for an upcoming fiscal year. So
Those two things sound the same to a lay person. To me, they sound the same. I wonder if upcoming, I don't know, I wonder if we can do some thinking about their titles.
Yeah, so we don't have a lot of flexibility on how we can title things within Invisio. Their platform has certain standards of the way that they report out on different things. We can put in requests, but they have to make updates along the way just for the entire platform, not specific to Corona. So right now we're kind of tied to the way that they label certain things, but we can absolutely put that request in for a potential future update if they're able to accommodate it.
Ms. Finch, could we put maybe a chart that says upcoming equals not started, or?
Sure. So we do have not started as well, and that could
so,
be
okay,
even a
then
little bit
what's
more
the difference
confusing.
there? That's more confusing.
So not started would be an activity that is programmed for the fiscal year that we're in. We just haven't started it yet. Upcoming would be a future fiscal year. So we don't have that particular activity planned until fiscal year 24, 25, 26, one of the future years of the strategic plan.
That actually helps.
And maybe we can define it a little bit better. If you go back, when we exit out of this, I'll go back to the homepage where you can see we have kind of a chart at the bottom of it that shows what each status is, and it describes it in more detail. So if we can't change how the status is labeled, we could potentially elaborate a little on how we define it.
Sure. However, they sound like synonyms to me. So however it is that we can clarify it, I think would be helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. So upcoming and work underway. We'll take a look at those. Okay, so just to finish the demonstration, if you drill down into each of the activities, you will get the actual update for the reporting quarter, as well as any performance metrics that are tied to that activity, and then the progress status listed here. So that's just a quick overview of how the dashboard works. We do have a link to the dashboard on our strategic plan page on the city website, and we will be announcing it beginning tomorrow on our social media channels. So the public is available that is aware that the dashboard is available, and they'll be able to go in and access it and search through it to see the different status updates on our different activities and performance metrics.
Ms. Finch, would you be able to show us the definitions? Were you able to do that, pull that up?
Sure. So let me go back into the demonstration. So we have our homepage here with each of our goals. And then if you scroll all the way to the bottom, then you'll see we have the statuses. So pending, on track. It's aligned with the color codes here. So it provides the definition of what each of those color codes mean. And we can talk to Invisio about how we word those status updates. Right now, it's just their standard language that they have available for each of those, but we might have some flexibility in how we word those or define them.
So then yellow means something else on this page?
It means that work is, well, for us, it means work is underway. They define it as, yeah, we'll have to go in and take another look at that because that
That's
is
the
a little
nicest
bit
way
different.
to,
'Cause if
to
you,
say that you're not meeting some disruption.
yeah, but see, if you hover over the progress bar, it says work underway. So we'll have to work with them to fix those little kinks. We're just in the process of getting this rolled out. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
I'm looking forward to it at the end. We've never had something like this where, look, we've never had a strategic plan that is super citizen engaged and informed, that we have a road plan, a roadmap that we're actually sticking to, and it's not just sitting on a shelf. Like, all of this is good stuff. The titles, the details that, we're gonna go through and iron out, that's minor. I'm not trying to give you, heartburn over it. It's just, I'm excited about this dashboard.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. Those are things that we'll definitely go in and clean up before the next progress report.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so now that I did a demonstration, I'd like to just quickly go through some of the highlights of the Q3 reporting period for each of the goals. So as I mentioned, we changed the colors a little bit of what each of the status updates mean, and I have that legend up here at the top corner of the slide. But for financial stability, we have 4 items that are on track and 1 item that is complete. The on-track items are utilizing the strategic plan to guide future financial decisions. This was done as part of the ongoing budget process where budget submittals were organized based on the strategic plan items that they aligned with, and these items were reviewed with the City Council at the Spring Financial Workshop. The next one is identifying potential cost savings and cost containment opportunities. Finance and the City Manager's Office held several budget review meetings throughout the budget development process to identify these opportunities and presented those to the Council at the Spring Financial Workshop as well. Third one is to increase the percentage of services funded via external sources. We are continually working with departments to identify these funding opportunities, and we'll continue to work on this as we go through the strategic plan implementation. The next item that is on track is actually the last green icon on this slide, and that's to establish a process to track grant funding, which we are in the process of doing that. And then the last one that is completed, which is the blue item, is to create strategic reserve funds. And this was created as part of the fiscal year 22 budget process. As you heard from Finance, they just presented on that for the utility funds. We also have a snapshot of our financial stability performance report that I demonstrated in the dashboard. This has information on our bond credit ratings, our outstanding debt, diversity of revenue sources, and fund balances, to name a few. Moving on to our update on strong economy and some of the progress highlights for this item, we have 2 activities that are on track in green highlighted on the slide above. One is to create a development handbook that explains review and approval process. The department has completed flow charts on permit and entitlement processes and has posted these on the city website. So that one is on track towards being complete. And then the other green icon is to explore the feasibility of a facade improvement program. The Economic Development Department has implemented a downtown commercial beautification grant program, developed the guidelines, and drafted a process of identifying grant partners to develop the application portal and conduct review. And this is on track to be launched by the end of Q4. And then we have 3 activities where work is underway. One is to review and update the city's purchasing process. This was presented to the City Council. An update on this was presented at the Spring Financial Workshop, and staff from the Purchasing Division will be bringing this back to the City Council at a future meeting for additional discussion. We also have an item to partner with the Chamber in its Corona 2030 plan for local job creation. Work is continuing on that, with the city partnering with the Chamber on business events, outreach, and co-promotion of the Live Work Corona program. And then the last icon in yellow is to redevelop the Corona Mall properties. As you know, construction of the South Mall is anticipated to be complete by early summer, and tenant improvements will begin shortly thereafter. And then here we have a snapshot of our Strong Economy Performance Report, where we have information posted on small business activity, business promotion activities, the Emprendedores program, and business resources that are available in Spanish. Next, we have our sound infrastructure progress highlights. We have one item that is complete in blue, that is to revamp the Capital Improvement Plan program. As you know, we presented the updated CIP program to the City Council at the Spring Financial Workshop with revised project criteria, prioritized ranking system, and a 10-year timeline. There were significant cleanups that were able to occur to the CIP based off of this revised process, and we are excited to get that fully approved by the City Council with the adoption of the fiscal year 24 budget. The next item that has work underway with the icon in yellow is to develop an asset management program for all city infrastructure. The Public Works Department is currently in recruitment for one position for the asset management coordinator. And once that position is filled, they will work with departments to create an inventory of all city assets and develop a program to manage them. And then we have 3 programs where they are on track with the icons highlighted in green. Those include the Park and Rec Master Plan and the Trails Master Plan. The Park and Rec Commission and City Council have received updates on these plans, and they are on track to be delivered to the City Council in August for the Trails Plan and September for the Park and Recreation Plan. And then the last item on here is the implementation of the Park Sponsorship Program. The Community Services Department currently has a park adoption program underway with Corona and Centennial High Schools adopting Victoria Park. And staff is also meeting with the Rotary Club to promote interest with local businesses for additional adoptions in the future. And then we have our Sound Infrastructure Performance Report highlighted here, where we have information and data on investment in capital assets, resident satisfaction ratings pertaining to infrastructure, and data on our park and green space acreage. Moving on, we have our Safe Community Progress updates. We have 4 items that are on track for completion. These include the determining appropriate staffing for effective emergency responses. For this item, the police department has developed a 1-day testing event for sworn positions and has held this event 3 times since January. For developing a process to scale emergency response to call type, the fire department has the low acuity response apparatus anticipated for delivery in the Q4, with full implementation planned in Q1 of fiscal year 24. The next item that is on track is to develop a plan to address chronic staffing issues in the dispatch call center. Dispatch has developed a new schedule that limits mandatory work for dispatchers on days off. They also have their training program modified to allow for accelerated opportunities to graduate from this program. And then the last item with work on track is the final green icon, which is to raise public awareness of local hazards and risks. The fire department is currently developing databases for timely notification to the community if catastrophic events are to occur. And then there's one item with work underway, that is the shield that is highlighted in yellow. This is to develop a long-term funding strategy for emergency service assets. The fire apparatus replacement plan is currently underway and is included in the fiscal year 23 and 24 budget process. And then for our performance report, we actually have several scorecards for this. The first one that we have here on the screen shows response times for police and fire, comparing fiscal year 23 quarter 3 over fiscal year 22 quarter 3, and you can see the various trends listed here on the slide. The next one is crime and traffic data, again, a year-over-year comparison of the same quarter, along with the trends showing for each item.
I had a quick question. Is there a way to put the target in there somewhere? I mean, like on the previous slide with the 4 minute and 44 second priority one call, that's great. I mean, but I know that's below the goal, but I don't know if anybody else that was read this would know it would be below the goal.
Yeah, I know we do have targets. Donna, is it possible to put the targets inside Invisio?
So we don't have targets for all of the performance metrics. The ones that do have them are listed, but it is a part of our strategic plan goal in the future is to identify targets for all of the performance metrics. We just don't have those yet.
Okay.
So once we get those identified with the departments, we can definitely build those into the plan.
Because I know when, I love the fold out that you guys provide. I've taken it to every town hall I've done. I'll be doing a neighborhood watch next week, and I bring them, and that's the first question that people ask me, well, what's your goal?
Yes. Yes, for the activities, we do have the target to complete it by a certain time frame, and that's where we show, but the metrics we still haven't got there yet, but we will
Thank you.
definitely.
Yeah,
continue to work
like I said, I know what the goal is for that one, but, I just, if I just handed this to someone, they wouldn't know.
Thank you. Okay, and then continuing with the performance report, we have data for emergency preparedness and homelessness and housing. And then the last one for Safe Community is regarding various areas of cleanliness related to code compliance. We also have some household income and single-family home cost data and community satisfaction ratings regarding the overall cleanliness and appearance of the city. Okay, moving on to our progress highlights for Sense of Place. We have 2 items above with work underway. Those include increased large-scale recreation events. For that item, staff is recommending funding and new event ideas, which are submitted as part of the fiscal year 24 budget process. The next one, highlighted in yellow, is to develop a performing arts venue and or renovate the historic civic center. This one is in process. As you know, staff has brought forward a contract for securing a consultant for the Performing Arts Center feasibility project, and that will be underway shortly. And then we have 3 items that are on track. The first, highlighted in green, is to utilize the volunteer-led hikes to help residents become familiar with trails and parks. Staff is currently developing the volunteer hike program and is preparing materials and QR codes to link participants with information, and the hikes are anticipated to begin in the fall of 2023. The next item highlighted in green is to reimagine the city's brand identity and story. The visual brand, as you know, was presented to the City Council back in February, and the city seal will be presented to the City Council in May. And then the last one highlighted in green is the exploring the feasibility of expanding inclusive playground equipment. This item is actually included as part of the Park and Recreation Master Plan. And one of the items recommended would be to incorporate inclusive play structures in each quadrant of the city. And that will be presented to the City Council as part of that plan. And then we have our performance report for these, for this particular goal, with information and data on recreation activity participants, community satisfaction ratings of the city as a place to live or raise a child, as well as additional information regarding community satisfaction on the city of Corona. And as you know, this data was first identified with the community satisfaction survey that we did last summer. We are in the process of getting ready to relaunch that survey for fiscal year 24, and we'll have that data to be able to provide a comparison to see where we're trending within the next few months. And then the last one is high-performing government for the strategic plan update. So for this one, we have 2 items with work underway. The first is to create a formalized staff training and development program. As you know, we have a new training officer, and this new officer has drafted several training courses aligned with DEIB programs, supervisory training, and career pathway training. The next item that has work underway highlighted in yellow is to streamline and simplify the recruitment process. The HR department has a new process that is mapped out, and it will be shared with the leadership team prior to implementation. And the public safety process has already been streamlined and was implemented beginning in January. And then lastly, we have 3 items that are on track, highlighted in green. The first is to develop a new employee orientation program. This new program is in the process of being finalized and includes a video welcome from the city manager. The next is to review and revamp the employee wellness program. The wellness committee has been established and a calendar of wellness activities has been launched and is currently underway. And then the last highlight is to enhance state and federal advocacy efforts utilizing lobbyists. The city manager's office currently has an RFP underway for a federal lobbyist, and award of the contract is anticipated in Q4. And then the last performance report has highlights here with data on social media engagements and impressions, city services offered virtually, community satisfaction ratings of city services, and employee satisfaction ratings. So just a final quick overview of the strategic plan overall progress. As you can see from this slide, we are about 65% complete with our strategic plan. 29% of our activities are on track. Roughly 22% have work underway. 2% are not started. 8% have upcoming activities, and then 38% have been fully completed. So before I move on to the by the numbers update, which I will go through fairly quickly, are there any questions regarding the strategic plan update? Nope. Okay. So for the by the numbers update, this is not part of the strategic plan, but it is very important data that we do like to share that shows just the volume of city activities. We are in the process of importing this into Invisio, and it will be available for Q4 as part of the Invisio dashboard platform. But for now, we do have it remaining within the PowerPoint presentation. So I will just quickly go over a few highlights from each of the departments just to show the volume of work that they're doing. For community services in Q3, we have over 1,000 trees that were planted. We have 1,166 community volunteers providing 6,416 hours of service. And then for the Corona Cruiser, we have 32,243 individual ridership. For homelessness, we have 1,570 Corona PD homeless-related calls for service, 63 emergency shelter clients served, as well as 161 CityNet street outreach and engagement contacts. For community engagement, we have just over 7.5 million social media impressions, 642,944 website visits, and 207,334 total social media audience members. For SeeClickFix, we had over 1,600 total tickets submitted, 1 average day to acknowledge receipt, and 4 average days to close each of those tickets. And then for our graffiti activity, as you can see, that activity went down. We had 269 graffiti tickets and just over 58,000 square feet of graffiti removed. For economic development, I'd like to highlight 270 new businesses that reflect businesses with physical locations in the city, 45 businesses assisted, supported, and promoted, and 42 business outreach and visitations. For planning and development, we had 339 planning services applications processed, 493 development services plan checks, permits issued, 2,813 building inspections and 1,246 infrastructure inspections, 2,258 building plan checks and 1,112 permits issued, and 427 code compliance cases opened. For Public Works, we have 120 traffic plan checks, 112 active CIP projects, a combined 155 NPDES inspections for commercial and construction sites, 1,021 work orders completed for street maintenance, and a combined 513 scheduled and unscheduled repairs for fleet. For public safety, we had 3,961 calls for service for fire. 79% of those calls were responded to medical calls at 6 minutes or less. For police, we had 23,396 calls for service. 90% of those response times fall under 4 minutes and 48 seconds. And then for our goats, they cleared 10 acres of land this quarter. Almost done. For utilities, we have 8,269 customer service calls, 1,459 work orders received for utility maintenance. Power was on 99.93% of the time. And then for the water utility, 1.751 billion gallons of water treated and 1.144 billion gallons of wastewater treated. And last but not least, internal support. We had 6,651 invoices processed for accounting, 68 new hires for human resources, 310 purchase orders issued, 300 public records requests, and the last stat we always like to end with for information technology, 5,491,223 potential malicious activities blocked just in Q3. So that concludes my update for Q3. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Can we go back to every slide now? Thank you. This is one of my favorite things to see. This gives us an idea of where we are, and I'm looking around the room and trying to get eye contact with all the directors to signal my appreciation. Please pass on to your staff. It's seeing all these numbers go in the right direction, and all the numbers is such a good thing. So, thank you.
Thanks, Donna.
Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. I mean, Ms. Finch, thank you very much. You did.
Thanks, Donna.
But what I was going to say is I really like the by the numbers, especially with the C-Click fix, because when I love giving folks the pamphlet that we print out every quarter. It's a great leave behind. It also helps folks think about all the things that the city does and gives them it's just really great. And so I'm looking forward to this dashboard, but don't stop printing them, because I think they're really valuable to have a physical copy to give to residents when we speak with them. But the other reason is that sometimes it's easy to believe that government is not responsive. And it's great when I can tell people, use this app. We really do look at it. We really do. It does create a ticket for the thing that you want to get done. And on average, it takes 4 days to get it done. So download the app. So I really like that slide, and I want my colleagues to appreciate it more. Thank you, Ms. Finch.
Thank you, Mrs. Finch, for the report. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Sorry, Mayor. We do not have a speaker card for this item.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 29, the co-sponsorship requests. Jose Correa, Program Coordinator, Events, will present this item.
Mr. Durlith, can I bother you for a moment? Since the Corona Historic Preservation Society is in this list, it is a small amount, it's $100. Do I need to recuse myself? There you go. Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you
Bye.
next week. Thank you.
You wish.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Tonight, I am here to present the funding recommendations for the fiscal year 2024 co-sponsorship requests. So the ask here tonight is that the City Council review and consider the fiscal year 2024 co-sponsorship requests that we did receive. So first, I want to give a quick little history to familiarize all of you with this program. And so the co-sponsorship program is intended to facilitate nonprofit community events that are open to the general public and hosted by Corona-based nonprofits. It also provides a one-time fee waiver or in-kind assistance, which may be used to offset any city fees that the city would normally charge for permitted use. Of course, while there are some fees that are waived, the city is still responsible for some real costs. And more oftentimes than not, it is staff fees that are associated with the planning of this event or the execution of all these events. This is not a subsidy or any type of grant program in the form of cash. So up here, you'll see the traditional timeline for the co-sponsorship program. So in the month of February, the applications do become available. So those are publicized over social media and our Inner Circle newsletter that goes out. So something really exciting that we were able to do this year was use our registration software system to create a form online that all nonprofits were able to fill out electronically. So we went away with paper copies and everyone was able to submit them online with no issues whatsoever. So those stay open for about 2 months. In March, at the end of it, that's when all applications are due. In April is when the team will review all these requests and gather any supporting information or documents that are needed from these nonprofits before bringing them to the City Council for review in the month of May, where we're at now. And then in the month of June, that if everything does go according to plan and everything gets approved, it'll get lumped into the budget. And if necessary, we do have the ability to accept some mid-year requests. However, the policy does ask that those are reviewed by the City Council before they are approved. So to qualify for the program, the groups must meet the following criteria. One, it must be a Corona-based nonprofit 501c3 or government agency, or have a local branch or nonprofit affiliation within the city of Corona. Per the policy, groups must meet at least one of the following intentions for this policy, which is promote Corona as a desirable place to live, visit, or do business, promote Corona as a destination and or encourage tourism, enhance the quality of life and well-being of our residents, advance pride and multicultural community, encourage neighborhood identity and pride, and or promote cultural/artistic awareness. Up here, you will see the compiled list of all the returning requests for fiscal year 2024. You will see that there are some non-monetary costs on this list, and these are generally just requests to use the city logo or share their event on our social media channels or marketing platforms, including our Corona Connection brochure that gets mailed out quarterly to our residents, the Inner Circle newsletter that goes out, and also our social media channels. With all these events, they are added to the city's website calendar so that our residents can see what's happening within our city 24/7. They can see what's happening this weekend. Months down the road, these are all published with links to each of the individual events with the host sites in case they have any specific questions on the event. This time around, we've received a number of new requests that are displayed before you today. Once again, you will see that some of these don't have any monetary costs associated with them. And some of these new requests and these partners would like to include the city as a co-sponsor just by name. For these events, we would allow them to use the city logo, be added to the community calendar, and promoted on all of our social media. All of these have no monetary value, but they do convey our stamp of approval for each of the individual events. I'll go through these one by one just to kind of give you a little more information on what these events entail. So ABC Hopes, Inc. is excited to return for its 5th annual Cornhole Tournament, which is a non-sanctioned, family-friendly cornhole tournament that brings families, friends, businesses, and other nonprofits together for a day full of fun. The second one up there is the Amber Waves of Grain, which is a veteran-run nonprofit, and they're back with our annual parade and beer festival taking place inside the Dos Lagos parking lot. This will be a day of fun with live entertainment, various food vendors, trucks, and several veteran organizations to help our fellow veterans within the city of Corona. The Circle City Chorale is requesting co-sponsorship for a seasonal concert to, throughout the year, they do vocal workshops where they help all those in the community that want to get to know a little bit more about what it takes to be in a chorale. And so this season concert is being able to showcase what they've learned throughout that year. For the People Task Force is looking to host their annual volunteer appreciation dinner at the Circle City Center, just as ways to say thank you to all their volunteers for their hard work and dedication throughout the year for volunteering. And last but not least, we have the Joe Dominguez American Legion Post 742, which is looking to host a Patriot Day event to honor the memory of the innocent victims of September 11th, 2001. They want to educate this youth on this tragic day. And at this event, there will be a variation of things, which include a car show, various food vendors, live entertainment, a kids zone area, and a horseshoe competition. So in total, it would be about $22,960 in requested support for fiscal year 2024 for all the co-sponsorship events that were listed before you tonight. So again, the ask here is that the City Council review and consider the fiscal year 2024 co-sponsorship request as part of the finalized fiscal year 24 budget. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of you may have.
However, is there, and I wouldn't see why there would, okay, let me ask the question. Is there a limit to how much, like the value of the co-sponsorships? Have we ever said we will only co-sponsor up to X dollar amount?
So that would vary depending on the each individual event that is brought before us. So what we do is we will review when they put in the request, and we'll see how much it will cost. So whether it's staff time, permitted time, any city requested services is covered by co-sponsorship. So like I said, it just depends on each individual event. So if some events need more in order to move forward, we can definitely bring that forward for you, and you guys will make that final decision.
And as a city, we haven't said, hey, let's cap these fees at like, we want to co-sponsor to like X dollars.
No, we have not.
Because it's just fee waivers. It's
Correct.
not like we're writing a check or anything.
Exactly,
We're just
it's
saying
not
instead of, and it adds value to our community, so there's a vested interest in that. So thank you. Thanks for this. I'm in favor of all of it. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't think this is not going to require a vote, but I think that or does this require a vote?
No, it doesn't. We just need consensus.
I think that we're all good. Yeah? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Leave Wes out there?
Yep. I mean, somebody want to, he heard us. All right, moving on to number 30, Canvas on the Curb artwork recommendations. Tracy Martin, CIP project manager, will present this item.
Good evening. Hopefully this is not a contentious item and we'll get through it very quickly.
Better not be.
So our ask tonight is that you review final artwork selections and direct staff to proceed with city-sponsored wrap and community sponsors for remaining 6 box submissions. So just a quick review, Canvas on the Curb, what is it? It's a pilot program that we developed to support local artists and provide public displays of art. Our goal for the pilot is to wrap 7 boxes, traffic signal boxes, throughout the city. And for the pilot program, it's going to be funded 50% by the city and 50% through sponsorships. What have we done so far? So we did a call for artists starting back in September 15th, 2022. That lasted through October 19th. We received a total of 38 entries. We had staff from 3 different departments narrow this down. And then we put it out to the public and we asked them to vote for their favorite artwork. We received 678 total votes, and we have, without further ado, 7 finalists for your review. This is by Gwyneth Wang. It's Reach High. This actually received almost 20% of the votes, so we are recommending that we use this as a city-sponsored wrap for the first item.
That's awesome.
Orange Groves by Aurelia Thompson. Diversity of Corona by Derek Enriquez. Corona Beauty by Lori Alarcon. California Dreams by Kim Mabon. Cherish Corona by Megan Fanning. And Peonies and Hummingbird by Chanyu Miao. And I hope I didn't butcher her name.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Somebody drew that last one?
Yes, you would not believe the talent we have in the city of Corona.
Gorgeous.
We asked all the artists to select their preferred locations. This is how it kind of mapped out. The city-sponsored location would be at the corner of Ontario and Main Street. We are willing, however, if we get a sponsor who says, I really, really want it to be at this location, aside from the downtown area, that we're willing to work with them on that location. But we have a pretty good mix throughout the city. Our next steps would be that you approve the finalist submissions. We would pay a stipend to the artists. We would wrap our first cabinet, and then we do a call for sponsors for the remaining 6. And I would like to say a big thank you to all the artists. You would not believe, even the ones that unfortunately didn't move further in the contest. We have a lot of talent here in Corona, so I think this is going to be a really neat project moving forward. But a big thank you for their patience during our first round. So our ask tonight is that you review the artwork selections and direct us to proceed with the project. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. I am so happy this is going forward. I know when first brought this in, we were, a lot of discussions about how it was going to look and where we're going to end up. And I am just so pleased with where we've ended up. And I am just excited to see these 7 be in place and hope that the next phase of this, that we can find ways to bring in the business community to help sponsor these and get them all over. I know every time I drive down Foothill and I drive by Jameson Park, I still see the ones that were wrapped years ago that still look great, and people, will mention it to me, and I go, just wait, we have some more, and these are just everything I could have hoped for. So thank you, and looking forward to getting these done.
No, not contentious at all. I think this is really wonderful. This is just one of those feel-good, items, and we don't always have feel-good items, so I appreciate that this is coming forward. My only question is, do we have a timeline of when we're going to see this artwork?
The goal would be to have the first box wrapped before summer or by summer, so we're working on that right now, actually.
Got it. So do you think that we might be able to get all 7 before the end of the year?
I will be knocking on doors. I have a few ideas in mind about who to contact for some of the sponsorships, so yes, our goal is to do that very quickly.
Okay, but the first one before summer. Very cool. Thank you.
Ms. Martin, really, really quick, for those of us that get approached by people that are seeking out the sponsorships, what is the cost?
The approximate cost is $3,400 total, and the city's covering the 50% of it, so close to $1,700.
Okay. Well, if you need somebody else to help knock on doors, I'm certainly willing to do so. Before we move on to a vote, is there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards.
Then at that case, I'd like to make a motion to approve this.
It would just be a consensus as well, not an official motion vote.
Oh, the script
But
says
it
motion.
it says in the script that there's a motion.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
I officially consent.
Yeah. I think you got a unanimous consent on this. Okay, moving on to item number 31, which is a request from Vice Mayor Richens to have the City Council consider a fee waiver for the Corona Heritage Foundation for the reconstruction of the Hotel Del Rey at the Corona Heritage Park. Joanne Coletta, Planning and Development Director, will present this item.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the introduction of the title. So what I'll do, I'll go ahead and move into the ask. We do have 2 options for the City Council this evening. Option 1 is to either direct staff to apply its current requirement when it comes to imposing fees on 501c3 nonprofit organizations. Right now, we do have a law into effect that allows these organizations to receive a 50% reduction on our planning and permit fees. Or option 2 is to direct staff to prepare a resolution for the City Council's consideration to waive 100% of those fees. So just a little bit of background on what the Corona Heritage Foundation is. It's a nonprofit 501c3 organization. They do own the Corona Heritage Park here in the city of Corona, which is off of Foothill Parkway. And they also have an executed agreement with the city to operate that park as a public historic park. They are responsible for all of the maintenance and future development of the park. However, any revenue that is generated from that facility, they do get to keep because that is associated with their operation. So what the request is has to do with what the Corona Heritage Foundation has on the horizon. They are actually proposing to reconstruct a former hotel that used to reside within downtown Corona on East 6th Street in Victoria. It used to be known as the Hotel Del Rey. And that hotel was constructed in the early 1900s. However, it was taken down in 1998. And what's kind of unique about it is that it was actually taken down in pieces. And since then, it's been stored in container boxes. And now the foundation wishes to reconstruct that facility at the Corona Heritage Park and turn it into an event space where people can have weddings or birthdays, as well as a multi-purpose room. So what they want to do is put that on the park site, and they would make that available to the public for rental. So they are currently in the city's plan review process because they do need to rebuild it and actually get a permit and go through all the inspection process, just like with any construction. And in doing so, they are encumbering some fees. So this here just shows you what our fees are based on a 100% cost recovery. And as you can see there, just the plan review and permit fees is about $83,000. However, they are subject to additional pass-through fees that are to other agencies, one being the Riverside County Transportation Uniform Mitigation Fee, which is TUMF. That fee is almost $74,000. And then they also have to pay their sewer capacity fee to the Corona Utility Agency, and that is about $62,000. So in that area alone, you're just up over $136,000. So in total, at 100% recovery, you're looking at $219,000. When you look at option one, which is imposing our current 50% reduction on our fees, the permit and plan review fees get reduced by 50%, but you still have to remember they have to pay 100% cost of the TUMF and the sewer capacity, so the total cost is almost $178,000. And when you look at option two, with the 100% fee waiver, they are just paying the TUMF and sewer capacity, which is just slightly over $136,000. So just some of the pros and cons, really with option one, the pro is that it's just consistent with your current ordinance and there's no other action by the city council needed. However, the con is that they will have to pay that 50% in addition to 100% of those other fees. And then the pro of option two is that they will receive a little bit of a break and they will pay a lesser fee than under option one. And then the con is just that staff's time would be subsidized through the general fund. So again, the ask is for the city council to direct staff to implement option one or option two. And with that, I will turn it over to the city council so they can have discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor, for bringing this forward. I know that I've spoken to folks at the park several times over the past few years as they've gotten closer and closer to this. This is a unique situation because of the relationship that we have with the park. And I think that in the staff report or in the item, it's included the letter from Heritage Park from Marla Benson, kind of describing the process of how we got here. So this park was supposed to be a city-run, city-operated park, was given to the city by the developer. And the subsequent, first it went to the Historic Society, then then they formed the Heritage Park 501c3 to take this on. However, there is a caveat in this is if they financially fail, the city, it reverts back to the city. So I see this really as a way for us to ensure that this park remains financially viable and doesn't become an even bigger impact on the city. Right now, the park is self-sustaining. You got a bunch of people who volunteer time. There's no paid staff. And they find a way to pay their taxes and keep the upkeep of the property based on its rental, and they have a full-time staff that runs it, plus the museum and the other things that they do there. So I just see this as an opportunity for us to invest in a nonprofit that has helped the city over these past 20-plus years, A, to preserve our history, and B, to save. I can't imagine what it would cost for us to take over this park and run it ourselves. So I think this is a drop in the bucket of what it would cost us to run the park. So if this allows them to be financially viable over time, I see it as a great thing.
Mayor, could I hear from Tom since he brought this forward?
Yeah, so Joanne gave a great history on the Hotel Del Rey. She's laughing at me. The first hotel in Corona was the Hotel Temescal, and when it burnt down, city leaders approached, what was her name? Ida. Her name was Ida Bell Fraser, and she was running a boarding house, one room, but she was always helping people, and they said, our hotel is burnt down, we have no hotel in the city, if we loan you the money, will you rebuild our hotel? And it's, for the early 1900s, for a woman to be approached to do this is really significant. And she did. She contracted S.L. Bloom to build the Hotel Del Rey, and when he finished it, he went and built our Carnegie Library. And she ran it to precision, and she was smart, and she paid back the city pretty fast, the $4,000 that it cost to build the Hotel Del Rey. And then, unfortunately, over time, it fell into disrepair. But now with it being in containers up at Heritage Park itself is quite the amazement. Just in that little, the history that goes with that park is it was the headquarters of the Foothill Lemon Ranch Company. They're currently underway to be placed on the National Historic Register of Places, so they'll qualify for all sorts of grants. In that park alone, they have a museum, they have an arts colony where people promote their art, they have a model railroad club, they have a woodworking shop where you can go and take lessons on how to build furniture, and Daniel, the guy that's there, will teach you how to build anything out of wood. They preserve history. The archivist up there, she retired. She was the archivist for San Bernardino County, and she retired, and now she volunteers her time there. If you go and ever take the tour, you will just be amazed at just how the quality of the history is up there. The cornerstone of the old City Hall is sitting in one of the barns up there. And for them to rebuild this Hotel Del Rey is because they've recognized that they won't be there forever. They'll need new board members, but they want the place to sustain itself. They want the third graders and fourth graders to keep coming. They want people to know about the museum. Just in their money alone, they have invested $3.5 million to improve this place that the city hasn't put any in. And if they get this Hotel Del Rey, again, it's the city helping them out, just like it was over 100 years ago. They will be able to hold events. They will be able to hold meals, just like people did in the original Del Rey, and it'll self-sustain itself. And it's, I'm sure the city could take it over and run it, but I promise you, as great as city workers are, you'll never beat the love of a volunteer. And right now, it's being run by volunteers. I would actually like to make a third option to where all the plan checker fees are waived. The TUMP fees can't be waived. I've vetted that with His Highness over there. And, but I think the sewer fees could be waived. So, you lowering the chair? So I'd like to, because it is city property in a way, waive the sewer fees as well. And if I need to make a motion, I will.
Mayor, can I just make a quick comment about the sewer capacity fees? So council can't waive those per se, but you would then need to make a general fund transfer from our general fund to our utility fund to pay that because it's an enterprise fund. So it wouldn't be a waiver in the sense that your review fees would be. You'd actually need to make a transfer of those funds, just as a point of clarification if you chose to do that.
So that's where it's at. Should it be rebuilt, it'll stand in majesty once again.
Thank you for allowing Tom to tell us why he wanted that on there. No, this is a very unique situation, and I remember responding on emergencies back in the 80s into this. It was called Victoria Hotel at the time. And boy, if that building could talk, oh my God. Super, super unique opportunity. I think I'm leaning towards option 2. Obviously, they're gonna have to pay, what is it, $80-some thousand in TUMF and sewer? It's a lot of money. And, but I don't think it's unreasonable to ask them to pay for that. And I think it's very reasonable to waive the staff fees in this particular, very unique case.
Councilmember Casillas?
Yeah, I remember our discussion about the Women's Improvement Club and that building. And at the time, and still, I believe it's always just best practice to set a rule instead of an exception. And I'm glad we did set a rule. But I was reminded earlier today about the benefit of the last vote for the Women's Improvement Club. Had we not stepped in and assisted when we did, the most recent rainstorms probably would have completely wiped out that building. So there is a public good in preserving our historical structures. And I don't think there are any more exceptions that are going to be coming down the pike.
Probably not.
And
probably there will.
and so, I for those reasons, I think that it would be valuable for us to invest as a city in the success of this. And the truth is that it's a $42,000 one-time thing,
Ish.
right? Was it just under 42,000? $41,455.
Yeah, so they're subject already to the 50%, so they would pay about that 42,000 in the plan review fees. So you would be waiving the 42,000.
Yeah. So I'm okay with that because I'd like to see this this hotel come back to life.
Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, yes, we have one speaker card for this item.
Okay.
Need to start standing closer. This is a good thing to do for a lot of reasons. This is economic development. This is almost like a little junior version of the Citrus Heritage Park in Riverside. It's an event venue. There's lots of activities that go on up there. It brings people to town. People come to visit just to see it. So, if you brought wedding parties and business meetings and stuff like that, it's an event venue. It's going to bring people to town. It is an economic driver as well. So, it fits. There's a lot of things you can hang this action on, and just like there was a transfer to do the Women's Improvement Club, that wasn't even city owned. This is actually really city owned. As has been pointed out. There could be a transfer. I'm sure there's some ARPA funds laying around. There's ways to cover some of this stuff. There's many different pots that money could come from for this, and it's also sort of contingent on whether it's going to get done. They have it submitted, but a lot of these fees are not even. They don't need to be even expended, unless they're going to build it. So some of these fees. When you issue the permit, that's when they're due. So, it remains to be seen whether they're going to be able to issue the permit. We're all hoping that it's going to happen. It'll be great if it does, but if this is an additional, kind of sort of wind at the back of this project, then it's completely worthwhile doing because there's not that much risk for you. You're waiving your own fees or you're sort of transferring money for your own fees. It doesn't really matter. There's probably a waiver program you could get through TUMP or something. So, we've sort of waived those fees before for people as well. So it caused them to be waived. So, anyways, so thank you very much. I hope you do it. Thank you.
Okay, so I also agree that this is a good for the community type thing, so. I don't know, we don't need to make a motion, I think we just need to provide direction, but,
Correct, Mayor.
okay, I think that we're waiving. Okay. Item number 32, legislative matters, ordinance amending sections 15.12.020 and 15.20.020 of the Corona Municipal Code to delete certain appendices adopted by reference as part of the 2022 California Fire Code and the 2022 California Plumbing Code. Does any council member want a staff report on this item? No? Okay. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards.
Okay. I'll move.
I'll second.
Yep.
Second.
Okay. Introduced by title only and waive full reading of ordinance number 3370. First reading of an ordinance amending sections 15.12.020 and 15.20.020 to delete certain appendices adopted by reference as part of the 2022 California Fire Code and 2022 California Plumbing Code. Please vote.
Mayor, we just need your vote. Oh, there it is.
Okay, the item passes 5-0. Okay, moving on to boards and commissions, reports from city council, commissions, and staff. Library Board of Trustees, there are none. Planning and Housing Commission, there are none. Parks and Recreation Commission, there are none. Everybody's favorite, regional meeting reports. Update from council member Jackie Casillas on the Western Riverside Council of Governments meeting of May 1st, 2023. That was a fun day.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of a protest or a,
No, it's May Day. It's in celebration of.
it wasn't a protest, what would you call
No,
that?
it's like
Just
a
gathering?
celebration. It's a gathering. It's a parade.
There you go.
So we had our meeting on Monday, and there's a couple of things that we passed of consequence. We voted to write a letter in support of Norco's request. Norco and Blythe, the state wants to close the prison in Blythe, which will have a major impact on that city. The city of Corona has also written a letter of support per Norco and Blythe's request to, rather than close the prison in Blythe, close the prison in Norco. We had through, I'm blending here, but today I had a Riverside County League of Cities Division meeting with State Senator Steve Padilla, and unfortunately he did say that that's going, like, it's an uphill battle. So anyway, but during WRCOG, we agreed and voted on another letter of support in the hopes that maybe we'll be able to save the Blythe prison and instead close down Norco. Also at the meeting on Monday, we appointed Wes to the SAPA OWOW, our council members speak, to the SAPA OWOW Steering Committee. He's filling the vacancy for, oh, you didn't know? Congratulations. You've got one more appointment. You love meetings, so this will be a good one. But you're filling the vacancy for the late council member, Ted Hoffman. So thank you for signing up for that.
Being voluntold, I think that's called.
We also voted to withdraw WRCOG's Good Neighbor Guidelines for warehouse / distribution facilities. So when WRCOG wrote these guidelines, it was years ago, and that was before a lot of cities started to develop their own guidelines. And so it looks like WRCOG's guidelines are actually in conflict to what several local cities are including in their guidelines. And so even though it's essentially being weaponized to, by opponents or proponents of warehousing, wherever it is that they lie, and how this document can help them to argue at their local city municipalities either in favor or against warehouses. So as an executive committee, we said, hey, listen, this decision on warehousing has become very difficult and also very city-specific. We should just exit that conversation altogether and withdraw our good neighbor guidelines and leave it up to the cities to do their own. So that's where we stayed. And lastly, we approved this agency budget for fiscal year 24, and there are no proposed changes to the member agency dues. So we're not going to pay any more for this next fiscal year. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And moving on to update from Councilmember West Speak on the Riverside County Transportation Commission, RCTC Western Programs meeting of April 24th, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's only one item to report on, which is we awarded a contract to Parsons for the project approval and environmental document for the State Route 91 Eastbound Corridor Operations Project, or the ECOP, which is an additional auxiliary lane, a 6th lane between the 241 and Highway 71. I was very excited to see that go forward, and it looks like we're just working on the funding for the construction. And that was worked in conjunction with, Orange County, OCTA, RCTC, the TCA, because it affects their toll facilities, Caltrans, the cities of Anaheim, Yorba Linda, and ourselves, Corona. And that's supposed to come back. It was awarded for $3.4 million with a contingency amount of $346,000. And it'll come to our final commission meeting, I think, this month for final approval. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And then moving on, again, to Councilmember Speak for an update on the Board of Directors of Western Riverside County Regional Wastewater Authority meeting, April 27th.
I'm going to say WICRA.
WICRA.
That's a good one.
I have to say it out loud in order to memorize the acronyms.
WICRA. Yeah,
Yep.
works out good. It was a really great meeting. It was at our Temesco desalter, so we got to welcome folks into our location. Didn't have to drive as far. We awarded a couple contracts for additional materials, bleach, and a few other items. Continue to have the same issues with having to haul biosolids that we currently have. And we got an update on our capital facilities plan that we're going to be hiring an outside engineer to help us facilitate those, and updated our recycled water program. And then our last item we spoke about was a proposed director's compensation policy. Councilmember Alleman from the city of Norco brought up an idea that this is one of the only regional boards that doesn't have a stipend. And so staff is we gave some direction on how we wanted that and how we wanted to limit it. And they'll come back to our next meeting. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we have an update from Councilmember Steiner on the Riverside Transit Agency RTA Board meeting of April 27th.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, this summer, everyone rides for 25 cents. That means bus rides, which usually cost $1.75, will be just a quarter from June 1st through August 30th. That promotion includes all local, commuter link, and Go Micro buses, and customers can ride anywhere RTA buses go anytime they operate. After the 25-cent promotion ends, the board also approved free fare Fridays from September 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. Both promotions are funded by the state grant that reimburses RTA up to the full fare. On Sunday, May 14th, the RTA will enhance a handful of routes with better connections and improved on-time performance. The new ride guide, service change guide, and system map will be available in early May at riversideTransit.com. Let's see, some inspections led by the maintenance department. The agency aced an inspection by the California Highway Patrol, which analyzed the inside and outside of 20 randomly selected buses. During the annual inspection, CHP officers look for any safety defects such as bald tires, low brakes, oil leaks, worn suspension components. The operations and training departments ensured all commercial driver's license credentials were up to date and passed with no findings. And as usual, RTA, they got the highest score possible, so it was pretty impressive. And then finally, or not quite finally, RTA salutes the brave men and women who paid the ultimate price to serve our country. On Memorial Day, Monday, May 29th, buses will not operate, and the regular customer information center admin offices will be closed. Regular services resume on Tuesday, May 30th. And finally, about four and a half years ago, the Corona Fire Department put in a request for one of their 40-foot buses. Every time they start getting old, they got to switch them out and surplus them out. They offer them up for organizations for various things. Well, like I said, over 4 years ago, the fire department put in a request, and we finally made it to the top of the list, and we got a 40-foot bus donated to our fire and police training facility just about 3 weeks ago or so. And this bus will just open up all kinds of training opportunities for our police and firefighters especially. It could be used for vehicle extrication scenarios. It could be used for mass casualty incidents. Our police department can use it for SWAT training. It just opens up so many great training opportunities. So big thanks to RTA for following through, and great job to the chief and Chief Wilson for putting in the request for one. So thank you.
I have no doubt that at the next AutoX training, we'll see a bus in some interesting, interesting position that people are trying to train for. So good job, Chief, and glad that we're able to get a free bus. Next, moving on to an update from myself on the Western Riverside County Regional Conservation Authority meeting of May 1st. Just two updates. One, we sent a letter of support to the state for Assembly Bill 1567 from Assemblymember Garcia. It's a $15.1 billion spending bill that includes $700 million up for grabs for wildlife conservation, which is something that we definitely need. And then we also directed staff to hire a consultant to study the MSHCP, looking for process changes that we could make and/or amendments. It was a very short meeting for us. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public for the regional updates?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards.
Okay, Mr. Derleth, do you have any comments? Mr. Ellis?
No, Mayor, thank you. Just kidding. I did have an announcement. I'm sorry. It's after 9:30. My brain turns off. We do have a new addition to the team, and that is our new Assistant City Manager, Justin Tucker. Want to welcome him and congratulate him on his promotion. And there's another one, but I'll introduce him when he arrives here in a few weeks. Thank you.
Okay. Do any of my colleagues have any comments?
Of course.
Of course.
Come on. Just a couple things. One, I want to thank the Islamic Society of Corona Norco for inviting me to their Eid celebration that they did on 4/21. It was kind of awe-inspiring. They took over the park, Santana Park, and had over 5,000 people come to the park. It was great to see so many people out and enjoying. It was a beautiful day. Oh my gosh, it was gorgeous. Went to the Peppermint Ridge Possibilities, was invited by the Seltzers, and a great event, and hearing what great things those folks are doing, and you know, kind of a new twist. They honored residents that had passed away in the past year. So it was quite moving, and to hear some of their stories. And I want to say thank you to the Seltzers and to Danny for putting on a great event. Councilmember Richens and I went to the Day of the Child, and we were able to crown the prince and princess. And we did a last-minute switch on who was going to present to whom. And because I know that the little girls get to Tom, I made him present to the princess. I'm sure he'll talk about her later on. And then lastly, on the 27th, the mayor and I went to the RCRA plant in Eastvale, where we saw them have a 500-ton crane install a 50-ton concrete top on top of a digester there. was a pretty impressive sight, you coming around the corner and seeing that. And thank you to Ms. Hockett for inviting us to attend and watch, and shot some video, and it was fun time. And then lastly, I want to thank everybody that came out to my town hall on the 29th. Had a really good crowd, a lot of great comments, mostly positive. I relayed to the city manager today that a lot of people just came to say thank you for some of the park improvements that we've done. I had a representative from the pickleball group that came and said thank you and invited folks to come and play. Made an appointment to meet with a few people afterward and come to do a few open house events that they have at their HOAs, and it was really great to do, and I'm looking forward to the next time. And then lastly, or last two things I want to, first of all, and tomorrow Corona is going to be celebrating its 137th anniversary of its founding on May 4th, 1886. So I'll be celebrating at SCAG down in Palm Desert at their meeting tomorrow. And then I'm looking forward to the Asian American Pacific Islander Community Conversation on the 11th. I'm really looking forward to that. And then lastly, those of you that are interested, the Corona Historic Preservation Society is doing their annual vintage home tour. Didn't have it the last few years because of the COVID. We have 4 really great houses. Tickets are on sale now online. They're $20 a piece, and it's Eventbrite. If you just put in vintage home tour, you'll come that up. And looking forward to seeing folks out and about. Most of the houses are within walking distance in kind of the eastern part of Grand. Some really great houses this year. And then lastly, I want to thank our one of the great things about the last redistricting is now we have 2 assembly people, we have 2 senators, and we also have 2 congressmen, or members of Congress. So Representative Young Kim represents the very western part of the city. She put in a $3 million request for construction funds for the eastbound corridor, the 91 corridor operations project, and that'll just give us a little bit closer to finishing that project. That's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Steiner? Councilmember Speak?
I'll see if I can outlast. Congratulations to Vice City Manager Justin. You well deserved. The Day of the Child, Wes did sabotage me. I got the girl, and because they make me cry. Yeah, you take one look at her and you're in tears, and Wes enjoys that. And but it's heartwarming. So her name is Harper Candelaria, and she showed up. She had a near drowning experience when she was a baby, and she lived. And she's gone through multiple surgeries and multiple trials, and she uses her eyes attached to a computer to communicate. And she can understand and hear you. And so when you say her name and when you look at her, she smiles at you, and then you cry again. And it's great, but it sucks. And so Wes sabotaged me. But if you want to follow Harper, and you're on Facebook, her page is Praying for Harper. And I follow her now. I'm a big fan of Harper. And if you could have seen how many friends and families showed up to support her, it's just, it's inspiring. So please follow her. And then if we could last another 2 hours and 15 minutes here, we could celebrate Corona's birthday tomorrow. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think you all want to go home. I want to go home. And that's it for me. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I do have a couple announcements. Councilmember Speak and I don't think Councilmember Speak did enough justice. The digester lid that went up, literally they built this huge lid in between 2 huge tanks, and they lifted it with a crane. And the first thing that I looked at was, is this crane big enough? And for anybody that's still up watching, and if you're in school learning math and you're wondering if you're ever going to use math in life, this entire operation was an exercise in math. They lifted this huge lid up, and then they shifted it over, and then they slowly dropped it into a channel. It was absolutely amazing. So, and then to find out that we were standing on a tank full of methane gas was super fun. So that was really interesting to see. Same day, I was able to go with our economic development team. They did another highlight of a business for a small business week. It was Barber One at the Crossings. So got to talk with the owner there. They have one of the most interesting things that I've ever seen. One of their barbers is one of those guys that does Rubik's Cubes really well. And he's an artist, and so he takes Rubik's Cubes and changes them in a certain way, and he's got like 200 of them, and it forms a picture. So it's not just that he's doing Rubik's Cube, he's completely showing off by creating art with it as well. Let's see, on the 2nd, yesterday in fact, I was able to go to the Joe Dominguez Post for the coronation of the Cinco de Mayo Queen and her court. What a great event that they put on there. Very, very much so looking forward to the Cinco de Mayo celebration on the 6th of May, this Saturday at City Park. That's going to be a lot of fun. I wanted to give a shout out to IT. One of those slides that talked about how many phishing scams they get. Every single one of them seems to hit my computer. So I had to go there on Monday and have them fix my computer. So that was a big help. I wanted to give a shout out to them. The last thing that I want to talk about is the Prado Dam mural. I believe it is done. I'm sorry? Done. I've driven by it several times and then driven back there to take pictures. It is absolutely beautiful. The last time that I was there last week, I really started to remember of all the hundreds of trips that we would take growing up in Anaheim out to family members' house in Riverside and what that mural stood for. For us, it meant we were halfway there, so we had an idea of how much longer it was going to take. But always just impressed with the stature of the mural. And I'm very happy to see that it is back. Even though it's going to be short-lived, there is a plan for it to be repainted when the spillway gets raised. So that being said, we're going to adjourn this meeting. The next meeting of the City Council is Wednesday, May 17th, and this meeting is adjourned.